Su Ningjing was very kind and had a good relationship with her former colleagues. At that time, she had just finished her driver's license examination. Her colleagues wanted to prevent her from forgetting how to drive, so they brought her along to familiarize herself with driving on the road for a period of time. Today, under Lin Fan's guidance and after circling the Coiling Dragon Villa a few times, it was no longer a problem for her to drive alone. Hence, Lin Fan drove the Mercedes-Benz G-Class while Su Ningjing drove the Lamborghini Urus. They headed toward Washington Palace at an equal speed. When they opened the door, the familiar smell of food wafted out from inside. Ame jumped up and down. "Brother and sis are back, we can eat now." Lin Fan and Su Ningjing had just exercised for 2 hours. They were really hungry. They picked up a bowl and chopsticks and started eating. After lunch, Lin Fan said, "Grandma, sis, you just moved in. You still lack some clothes and daily necessities, right? Ningjing and I will bring you guys to buy some now, okay?" "I already have daily necessities," the old lady said. "As for clothes, Ningjing knows my and Ame's size, so we won't follow you guys." Ame seemed eager to go, but she looked at the tired old lady. "We can just stay at home." Regarding this, Lin Fan did not force them. He wanted to take this opportunity to let Su Ningjing drive more alone. After all, Su Ningjing had just started driving. It was inevitable that she would be nervous if she were to directly drive Grandma and Ame. Thus, Lin Fan and Su Ningjing drove separately and arrived at KM Mall at a steady speed. Although the clothes here were expensive, there were many styles suitable for men and women of all ages. In addition, KM Mall belonged to Lin Fan. By visiting his own mall, it could be said that he was giving his tenants some benefits. Since there was no need to try the clothes, he only needed to get them in the right sizes. Therefore, it was very convenient to purchase them. Before long, they had bought nearly 20 pieces of clothing and 6 pairs of shoes, spending a total of 889,000 yuan. On average, each piece of clothing was less than 30,000 yuan. It was very affordable. At the same time, 88 red packets appeared on Lin Fan's phone. Luckily, KM Mall provided delivery services. Otherwise, Lin Fan really would not have been able to carry so many things. When Lin Fan and Su Ningjing arrived at the underground car park, Lin Fan suddenly remembered his phone seemed to be in one of the shopping bags. If it was something else, Lin Fan could choose not to take it now. However, his phone was where he collected the daily red packets. He naturally could not abandon it. "Wait for me in the car," he said to Su Ningjing. "I put my phone in one of the shopping bags." "All right," Su Ningjing said. Then Lin Fan took the elevator again. Su Ningjing slowly walked toward the parking lot. After a while, she saw her car. At this moment, a gentle voice suddenly sounded from behind. "Beautiful lady, I'm sorry to disturb you." When Su Ningjing heard the voice, she could not help but turn around to look. The man in Eddie Bauer clothes was immediately attracted by Su Ningjing's side profile. At this moment, when he saw Su Ningjing's face, his heart started to beat wildly. Beautiful. She was too beautiful. Pure and beautiful. This feeling, she was like a fairy who had descended from the sky. "Excuse me, what's the matter?" Su Ningjing asked curiously. She sounded good. Even her voice was so pleasant. He had to get her. The man tried his best to suppress the excitement in his heart. Then he said in an embarrassed tone, "Ooh, I just spent 1 million yuan to buy a BMW X5. The technology is not very good. The front is a little narrow and there are cars on both sides. Can you help me drive it out?" As he spoke, he took out his car keys and pressed them gently. Sure enough, the headlights of a brand new BMW X5 flashed slightly. He first pointed out that he had a $1 million luxury car. Then he used a good attitude to ask Su Ningjing for help. It was really easy to get help in this way. The man had already made a plan in his heart. He would use this as an excuse to add Su Ningjing on WeChat and treat her to a meal later. In the man's heart, he had already begun to fantasize about holding hands with Su Ningjing and their future life together. An invisible smile appeared on his face. However, before Su Ningjing could respond, footsteps could be heard from afar. It was Lin Fan. He grabbed Su Ningjing's slender waist with one hand. Seeing this, the man's pupils constricted slightly. Jealousy, hatred, and other complicated expressions flashed across his face. It was not easy for him to meet a beauty. Why? However, immediately after, his eyes shifted slightly again. If they were just a couple, perhaps he still had a chance. After all, he had $1 million luxury car. Therefore, the man tried his best to put on a calm tone and asked, "And this is?" "I'm her boyfriend," Lin Fan said. Sure enough, it was just a casual relationship between a man and a woman. The man was slightly happy. "You know my girlfriend?" Lin Fan asked again. "We just met," Su Ningjing said. Then Su Ningjing roughly recounted their conversation. How smart was Lin Fan? He instantly understood the other party's thoughts. He pointed at the BMW X5 in front of him and said, "Is that the car?" The man raised his head slightly and said, "Yes." He looked extremely smug. It was as if he was saying, "That's my $1 million luxury car." Lin Fan said, "Ningjing, he said that your car is making it difficult for him to drive out. In that case, drive your car out first." "All right," Su Ningjing replied. As soon as she finished speaking, she took out the car keys to the Lamborghini Urus and pressed them gently. Then she opened the car door, got in and drove out. Seeing this, the man was slightly stunned. Lamborghini Urus. Obviously, he had some understanding of cars. Lin Fan saw that the man was standing there without any intention of moving and said, "You still can't drive your car out." Hence, he opened the door of the Mercedes-Benz G beside his car and drove the car out. Mercedes-Benz G, the man could not help but say again. Lin Fan rolled down the window and asked, "How is it? Do you have enough space now? Do you want me to help drive your car out?" The man's face instantly turned red. He had bragged for a long time that he had $1 million luxury car, but what was the result? In the end, this person owned a top-notch Mercedes-Benz G worth more than $2 million. There was also the Lamborghini Urus, which was worth more than $3 million. The man only felt that he was a fool. At this moment, he only wanted to leave this place as soon as possible. Therefore, the man did not answer Lin Fan. He lowered his head and walked into the BMW X5, stepping on the accelerator. However, he accidentally knocked into a pillar in front of him. After the man got out of the car, he looked at the broken headlights and the bent hood, his heart bleeding. "I just bought this." Seeing this, Lin Fan only said, "Ningjing, did you see that? Don't panic when driving or you'll crash." "All right," Su Ningjing nodded seriously. Then the two of them stepped on the accelerator and sped into the distance. The man was left alone in the same spot, choking on the exhaust and coughing non-stop. Not long after Lin Fan and Su Ningjing arrived at Washington Palace, the clothes and shoes that they had bought earlier were all sent over. Lin Fan saw that the sky was gradually darkening. He did not stay in Washington Palace for long and returned to the Coiling Dragon Villa alone. He sat on the soft sofa, took out his phone and focused on the red packet. 105 red packets, let's see what I can get. Obviously, these were the red packets he had received from buying clothes, shoes, and some expenses for the past few days. Ding, congratulations, you've received 8 yuan. Ding, congratulations, you've received 1,999 yuan. Ding, congratulations, you've obtained a 1 yuan critical hit card. Ding, congratulations, you've received 8,888 yuan. From the 102 red packets, Lin Fan received a total of 98,103 yuan and a 1 yuan critical hit card. One had to know that a 1 yuan critical hit card could be used to obtain 100 million yuan immediately after spending 1 yuan. In other words, Lin Fan spent the past 2 days buying clothes, eating, flying, and so on. Not only did he not spend any money, but he even earned 100 million yuan. Not bad. At this moment, Lin Fan's phone rang. It was his sister, Lin Xiaoyao. Hence, Lin Fan pressed the answer button. "Brother, did you invent that super battery?" Lin Xiaoyao's anxious voice came from the phone. Lin Fan thought to himself, so the news has already reached Lil Yao. "Yes," he replied. "Then Dahua Phone Group signed a 1.5 billion contract with you?" Lin Xiaoyao asked again. That's right, Lin Fan said. F***CK, Lin Xiaoyao shouted excitedly. Eh? Meanwhile, at Zhongbei University, Zhao Nai walked briskly back to the dormitory. When she saw Xia Bing and Xia Zhu sitting at the table and reading seriously, she could not help but smile and greet them. It's so late, why are you still studying? As she spoke, she casually glanced at Xia Bing and Xia Zhu's book. Soon Zhao Nai's face revealed a hint of doubt. 4 Li 4E equals 4 Li plus, is this a chemical reaction equation? Why are you guys reading a chemistry book? Zhao Nai asked. One had to know. Xia Bing and Xia Zhu were geniuses in the computer science department. They even won the Higher Education Cup last year. Although many people said that a large part of the reason why they were able to win the Higher Education Cup was because of Lin Fan, this did not deny their superb computer skills. Xia Bing and Xia Zhu stuttered, "We're just LL looking." Zhao Nai shrugged her shoulders and said, "All right, this is probably the difference between the top students and us losers." Then she walked toward the bathroom. Xia Bing and Xia Zhu looked down at the title on the cover of the science journal, Principles and Applications of Super Batteries. Then the two of them started to read it more attentively. Last night, Lin Fan had reminded Su Ningjing not to come over to prepare breakfast. Firstly, Lin Fan felt that it was too tiring for her to rush over so early in the morning. Secondly, Lin Fan wanted to go to school today. The leaders of Zhongbei University had already said that they would give him the greatest freedom. However, no matter what, he was still a student. It was not good for him to not go to school for a long time. Hence, Lin Fan drove the Mercedes-Benz G-Class and ate breakfast at a high-end restaurant nearby. When he walked out of the restaurant, he bought a bottle of mineral water from a small supermarket nearby. Ding, you spent 1 yuan. Do you want to use the 1 yuan critical hit card? Yes. Ding, you've successfully used it. Congratulations on obtaining 100 million yuan. Instantly, Lin Fan's phone vibrated. Notice from Merchant Bank, 100 million yuan was deposited into your account. Then, Lin Fan drove the Mercedes-Benz G-Class toward Zhongbei University. He had not been to school for a few days, but there was not much change. However, there was another banner in front of the gate congratulating him on his invention of the super battery. When Lin Fan parked his car and walked toward the classroom, a deep voice suddenly sounded behind him. "Lin Fan, good morning." Lin Fan slowly turned around and said, "Good morning, Counselor Sun." Sun Yaodong quickened his pace and hugged Lin Fan's arm, smiling, "Why are you being so polite to me?" Lin Fan's lips twitched. "Polite? Did you not greet me first?" "I was just responding politely." Sun Yaodong praised, "Not bad, Lin Fan, you're really not bad. I told you that your ability was outstanding and that you definitely bring glory to our class. Unexpectedly, you even invented the super battery." Lin Fan's lips twitched once more. He had outstanding ability and brought glory to the class. "Counselor Sun, do you really only know how to praise people with these same words? You invented the super battery and signed such a big contract. Do you want to celebrate?" Celebrate? Lin Fan really had not thought about it before. In his eyes, 1.5 billion was nothing. After all, his daily income was close to 20 million. After using the 1 yuan critical hit card today, he had an additional 100 million. He also often obtained office buildings worth billions and company shares worth tens of billions. If he had to celebrate every time, he would probably be constantly celebrating. However, no one else knew about this. Everyone knew about the contract worth 1.5 billion though. Lin Fan thought for a moment and said, "We do have to celebrate. I don't think we have any classes this afternoon. After the morning class ends, I'll celebrate with the students. Counselor Sun, are you joining?" "Is it appropriate for me to join?" Sun Yaodong asked hesitantly. Lin Fan opened his mouth and was about to say that it was fine if he did not want to go. However, Sun Yaodong immediately smiled and said, "Okay, I'll come to the class after I arrange my work for the afternoon." Then he patted Lin Fan's shoulder and walked into the office with his head held high. Lin Fan could not help but reveal a strange look. Why did it feel like the counselor seemed to have specially come over to freeload? Lin Fan shook his head and threw this small matter to the back of his mind. He went straight to class. Brother Lin Fan, you're finally here, Song Yi said excitedly. We thought that after you took 1.5 billion you would drop out of school and go home to enjoy your life. When the surrounding students heard the figure of 1.5 billion, they all cast envious gazes. Lin Fan smiled. I originally wanted to drop out of school and go home to enjoy my life, but when I thought about how all of you cute classmates were still in school, I came back. Brother Lin Fan. Song Yi called out softly. He was so touched that he opened his arms as if he wanted to give Lin Fan a bear hug. Lin Fan immediately said, Stop, I'm straight. 320 suggestion, go. Oh right, there are no classes in the afternoon, right? I want to bring the whole class out to celebrate my invention of the super battery and the signing of the 1.5 billion contract. What do you guys think? Originally, Song Yi was disappointed that he could not give Lin Fan a bear hug. However, after hearing Lin Fan's words, he became excited again. All right. Lin Fan asked, do you have any recommendations? Barbecue skewers and beer, Song Yi said. Lin Fan then looked at Ma Zhang. Ma Zhang understood that he was asking for his opinion. He said, hot pot. Sitting next to him, a round-faced man said, I know a good barbecue restaurant. Let's eat seafood. Let's eat Sichuan cuisine and drink. Initially, it was only the students around Lin Fan who gave suggestions. Soon, the other students in the class knew that Lin Fan was organizing a celebration in the afternoon. Therefore, they all made suggestions. Gradually, the entire classroom became extremely noisy. At this moment, Zheng Jinbao, who had been silent all this while, said, If you ask me, revisiting AC Clubhouse is the best idea. We can eat barbecue, hot pot, Sichuan cuisine and drink alcohol there. We can even get a massage. As soon as he said this, the entire classroom suddenly fell silent. Although the students did not voice out their agreement, Lin Fan understood that this silence was a tacit agreement. Alright, then we'll go to AC Clubhouse later. Ma Zhang shook his buttocks and said, We're going to AC Clubhouse, isn't that a bad idea? At this moment, a melodious bell rang throughout the campus. The old professor slowly walked in and began his lullaby-like lecture again. Today was even more difficult. Many of the students looked listless. From time to time, they would pull out their phones and secretly check the time, silently calculating how long it was until class ended. As the bell rang again, all the students seemed to have been revived and were in high spirits. All the students surrounded Lin Fan and said, Brother Lin Fan, are we leaving now? Lin Fan, who had been woken up by the ringing, nodded his head in a daze. At this moment, Counselor Sun Yaedong walked in. He smiled and said, Students, you're all still here. Have you planned where to celebrate? AC Clubhouse, Lin Fan replied honestly. Sun Yaedong's eyes lit up, but he said calmly, AC Clubhouse, all right, let's go then. All the students in the class were stunned. Counselor Sun was joining them. Although Sun Yaedong and the students usually shared a very harmonious relationship. A teacher was a teacher. Now they were going to celebrate together. Sun Yaedong saw that the students were not moving, so he asked, Everyone, let's go, why are you all standing there? Then he said, Oh right Lin Fan, how should we go later? The bus should have arrived at the school by now, Lin Fan said. Alright then let's hurry over. After saying that, Sun Yaedong took the lead. The students looked at each other and followed behind. Just as Lin Fan had said, a Mercedes-Benz bus had arrived at the parking lot. Wang Xingli, the general manager of Flying Dragon Security Company, saw Lin Fan from afar and quickly came over to welcome him. He said respectfully, Mr. Lin, this way, please. After getting onto the bus, Sun Yaedong praised, This is my first time riding a Mercedes-Benz bus. The configuration is indeed different. Oh right, Lin Fan, when did you start researching chemistry? I haven't studied it for long, Lin Fan said. In fact, it was not just that he had not studied it for a long time. He had only studied it for an hour. Of course, Lin Fan could not say that. Otherwise, would he not be treated as a monster? You invented the super battery after a short period of research and got 1.5 billion, you're too talented. Wang Xingli, who was sitting at the front, felt his heart skip a beat. Recently, he had been reading news about Lin Fan's invention of the super battery. When Wang Xingli first saw the name Lin Fan, he immediately thought of his boss. However, he did not dare to put the two together. After all, in his impression, his boss was a godly tycoon who had a deep relationship with the supergiants such as Little Tanuki, Penguin, and Alphabet. He probably did not have the energy to study batteries. The result? He was the one who invented it. Not only was his boss rich, but he was also a scientist. 1.5 billion. Sun Yaodong naturally did not pay attention to Wang Xingli's inner thoughts. He continued, "Lin Fan, are you going to join the chemistry department?" When the students on the bus heard this, they all pricked up their ears. They had always been proud of being classmates with Lin Fan. If Lin Fan suddenly went to another department, it would be a pity. Lin Fan said, "The mathematics department is good enough, why would I go to the chemistry department?" Sun Yaodong heaved a sigh of relief and smiled. "That's right, our mathematics department has always been very good." Jiangbei University was not far from AC Clubhouse. After chatting for a while, they soon arrived at their destination. When the two long-legged beauties saw such a large group of people, they said in a very sweet voice, "Welcome to AC Clubhouse." Sun Yaodong looked at the thin clothes of the long-legged beauties and their snow-white long legs. He could not help but swallow his saliva and said, "Lin Fan, this place isn't shady, right?" Lin Fan said, "Don't worry, this is a place for proper meals and massages, we've all been here before." "Oh, that's good," Sun Yaodong said. However, Lin Fan could vaguely hear a hint of regret in his tone. Was it an illusion? Under the guidance of the beautiful attendants, everyone came to the banquet hall and sat down. Not long after, abalone king crab, Australian lobster, roasted suckling pig, top-grade steak, charred beef, small hot pot, bullfrog, sea urchin egg, spicy bullfrog were all served. Just as Zhang Jinbao said, there was seafood, barbecue, hot pot, Sichuan cuisine, and wine. Everyone looked at the table full of delicious food and could not help but swallow their saliva. At this time, Song Jiaxin picked up a bottle of wine and poured a glass. "Congratulations to Lin Fan for his invention of the super battery. Let us give you a toast." When Sun Yaodong and the other students heard this, they all raised their wine glasses. "Lin Fan, congratulations on your invention of the super battery." "Congratulations." Lin Fan also picked up his wine glass and said, "Thank you, everyone." Then everyone downed the wine in their glasses. After a glass of wine, the atmosphere in the private room became even more heated. The students could not wait to break off the crab legs, pick up the abalone, and eat heartily. During this time, they toasted Lin Fan individually. After a full meal, some people chose to play board games while others chose to taste desserts. More people followed the beautiful attendants to the massage area. The place was shrouded in mist, and the water was flowing like a fairyland. A long row of long-legged beauties in Hua Nation's traditional clothing was swaying their light figures in the mist. When the students saw these beauties, their bodies went limp. They really wanted to lie down and let the beauties massage them. However, when they saw Sun Yaodong, they hesitated. Sun Yaodong was the first to speak up. "This place looks very good. I say, what are you guys still standing there for? Quickly lie down." After saying that, he took the lead and lay down on the massage table in front of him. A graceful beauty in Hua Nation's traditional clothing strolled over and stretched out her slender fingers to massage Sun Yaodong's body. "It feels good. You can use a little more strength. A little further down." When the students saw Sun Yaodong enjoying it so much, they no longer hesitated. They all lay on the massage beds and closed their eyes to enjoy it. In AC Clubhouse there were food, drinks, and entertainment. Everything could be said to be available. Everyone was so happy that they forgot about going home. It was not until 10 p.m. that everyone reluctantly gathered and prepared to leave. Lin Fan came to the front desk and said, "The bill." "Hello, the total is 898,900 yuan." There were a total of 36 people at this gathering, which meant that it was less than 30,000 yuan per pax. It was very affordable. Lin Fan did not care about this bit of money at all. He took out his bank card. Beep. As the bank card was swiped across the machine, a crisp sound was heard and a brand new receipt appeared. At this moment, a crisp notification rang out in Lin Fan's mind. Ding, do you want to use the food critical hit card? Lin Fan then remembered that he had obtained this card a long time ago but had not used it. After pondering for a moment, he thought to himself, I'll use it. Ding, the food critical hit card was used successfully. Congratulations, you've received 898,900,000 yuan. Then the phone in Lin Fan's pocket vibrated. Notice from Merchant Bank, 898,900,000 yuan was deposited into your account. Seeing this, Lin Fan could not help but reveal a strange look. At this moment, Ma Zhang sighed and said, we spent 890,000 yuan just like that. Lin Fan smiled and patted Ma Zhang's shoulder. He really wanted to say, in fact, I didn't spend any money. On the contrary, I earned an extra 890 million. However, he considered that it would be difficult to explain himself if he said this. Therefore, he did not say much. Today, Lin Fan and the rest stayed in the dormitory to sleep. After a day of fun, everyone slept very comfortably. The next day, all the students were flushed and talked about yesterday's dinner from time to time. In the past, when the students met Sun Yaodong, they would only greet him politely. However, after the massage yesterday, they were even more casual after meeting each other today. Counselor Sun. Hey. Old Sun. Obviously, the students had completely regarded him as a friend of the same generation. As the students chatted, the day's classes quickly ended. At this moment, the phone in Lin Fan's pocket rang. He glanced at the caller ID and realized that it was Ling Ru. Seeing Ling Ru's name, Lin Fan could not help but recall the scene of the concert. How's work been recently? Is it hard? Lin Fan answered the call and asked. It's not hard because these are all things I've always wanted to do, Ling Ru said sweetly. Also, Director Wang and my manager, Sister Li, all take good care of me. Lin Fan was satisfied. That's good. Ling Ru said, oh right Lin Fan, we're having a banquet at the Grand Hyatt Hotel tonight at 7 p.m. Are you free to come? Lin Fan smiled, of course. That's great, Ling Ru said happily. The two of them chatted for a while before hanging up. Lin Fan stayed in the dormitory for a while. Seeing that the sky was gradually darkening, he drove the Mercedes-Benz G-Class toward the Grand Hyatt Hotel. Grand Hyatt Hotel was a 4-star luxury hotel that had just opened in Jiangbei. Although there was still a gap compared to the Imperial Hotel, it was still the best in Jiangbei. At this moment, a long red carpet was laid out in front of the Grand Hyatt Hotel's main entrance. Coupled with the dazzling lights, the entire place looked gorgeous and colorful like a dream. Today, Ling Ru was wearing a white dress that reached her shoulders and a pair of crystal high heels. The moment she walked on the red carpet, she was like a fairy that had descended from the heavens. She was so dazzling that she attracted everyone's attention. So beautiful. So beautiful. Praise and discussion could be heard. In the hall, a bald man in a black suit also noticed Ling Ru. His turbid eyes lit up slightly, then with a beer belly he strode to Ling Ru. Hello, beautiful lady. Before Ling Ru entered the entertainment industry, she had a certain understanding of the industry. Moreover, she had been in the entertainment industry for some time now. Ling Ru recognized him at a glance. He was the famous director in Hua Nation, Li Xiaofeng. Hello, Director Li. Oh, so you know me, this is really my honor, Li Xiaofeng said happily. After a pause, Li Xiaofeng continued, oh right, I've been preparing for a big production recently. I'm still lacking a large number of actors such as the first and second female lead. I see that your temperament is very good. I wonder if you're interested. What kind of production is it? Ling Ru asked hesitantly. After all, she had only held one concert and filmed some music videos. As for film and television, she had not really come into contact with them. Li Xiaofeng smiled. As for the specifics, it's best if we go to a private room and have a drink while we talk. This way, please. As he spoke, he grabbed Ling Ru's arm. He did not hesitate to do this even in public. It was because even if he was photographed, he could still respond with courtesy. Once they entered the room, they could do whatever they wanted. Just thinking about what was going to happen next, Li Xiaofeng felt his heart burning. At the same time, he believed that Ling Ru knew how to cooperate. It was because this was the rule of the entertainment industry. However, some things were often different from one's thoughts. Ling Ru's body swayed slightly and she dodged Li Xiaofeng's arm. She said in a disgusted tone, "Sorry, I'm not interested in big productions." Ling Ru was not a 3-year-old child. She naturally understood what Li Xiaofeng meant. Instantly, she did not have a good impression of this pot-bellied old man. She turned around and walked to the side. Seeing this, Li Xiaofeng's face darkened as he thought to himself, "You didn't save me any face, I'll make you beg me obediently." As time passed, more and more people gathered in the banquet hall. Most of them were famous singers and movie stars. They wore gorgeous gowns and were extremely glamorous. In front of their fans, their different personalities, cold, lively, sunny, intelligent, and so on, came into view. However, here, they were all like ordinary people as they gathered in twos and threes, chatting with each other. At this moment, someone shouted, "This year is a bumper year for our entertainment industry. It's only just started, but Huang Kaio's Blade in Spring has already achieved remarkable results. This is definitely a good start for us artistes, therefore I suggest that everyone cheers to Huang Kaio." "No, no," Huang Kaio hurriedly said. "The reason why Blade in Spring could achieve such results is all thanks to director Li Xiaofeng's advice. In addition, it can be said that the current achievements of our juniors are more or less due to director Li Xiaofeng. Therefore, I feel that all of us should give director Li Xiaofeng a toast." As soon as he said this, many people echoed and raised their glasses. "Huang Kaio, what are you trying to do?" Li Xiaofeng scolded. "I'm ashamed to accept your toasts." Although he was full of blame, he was laughing. His face was all wrinkled up. He was obviously thinking, "Huang Kaio, well done." "Director Li, you're too modest." Huang Kaio understood the man. Li Xiaofeng waved his hands repeatedly. At this moment, he noticed Ling Ru, who was standing in the corner. He shifted his eyes and said, "If you ask me, the reason why our film and television entertainment industry can develop to its current state is entirely because we have an endless stream of outstanding young people joining us. Therefore, we should toast to the young people more often to give them more motivation." As he spoke, Li Xiaofeng picked up 2 tall glasses and filled one up with red wine while the other glass only had a little bit of red wine. He handed a glass of red wine to Ling Ru and said, "Miss Ling has only recently entered the entertainment industry. Everyone, please give her more motivation." As soon as he finished speaking, he picked up the glass with only a little red wine and drank it in one gulp. Li Xiaofeng had already roughly understood Ling Ru's situation. He looked up her name and knew that she had held a large-scale concert in Jiangbei. There were even rumors that she had a very deep background. However, regarding these, Li Xiaofeng did not care at all. He had been in the entertainment industry for many years, and he had long treated the matter of having a deep background as a joke. There were rumors that a certain celebrity's father was a high-ranking official, so no one felt that there could be any negative news about her. There were rumors that a certain celebrity was a rich second-generation heir. If he did not do well in the entertainment industry, he would have to go back and inherit the family business. In reality, those people were all very ordinary. If they really had such a deep background, why would they come to the entertainment industry? This was also a kind of character setting. Moreover, even if Ling Ru really had some background, so what? Li Xiaofeng was even more confident in his background. The banquet hall was filled with smart people. How could they not understand that Li Xiaofeng was deliberately messing with Ling Ru? They did not look down on a man bullying a woman. Instead, they joined in the jeering. "Director Li personally toasted you. You must drink it." "That's right." Li Xiaofeng saw that Ling Ru did not pick up the glass of wine for a long time. His face darkened slightly and he said coldly, "This is a business drink. You have to drink it. You must drink it." Ling Ru looked at his ugly face and panicked. She could not help but take 2 steps back. Just as she was lonely and helpless, not knowing what to do, a loud voice suddenly sounded in her ears. Since you want a drink, then drink more. This voice was like a rocket that shot into the sky, dispelling all the fear in Ling Ru's heart. The person who spoke was Lin Fan. He walked to Ling Ru's side and gently pulled her into his arms. It's all right now. Ling Ru nodded vigorously. Then Lin Fan said, Wang Xingli, let him drink until he's full. Coincidentally, the security company of the Grand Hyatt Hotel was Flying Dragon Security. Today, Wang Xingli, the general manager of Flying Dragon Security Company, happened to be discussing something with the owner of the Grand Hyatt Hotel. When Wang Xingli met Lin Fan at the entrance, he followed behind him like a follower. Yes, Wang Xingli replied. Then he waved his hand. After a while, a large group of security guards quickly surrounded Li Xiaofeng. You, Li Xiaofeng panicked. What are you doing? I'm the famous director Li Xiaofeng. My cousin is the boss of Zinel Film and Television. However, Wang Xingli turned a deaf ear and said, hold him down. How bad was it for security guards to bully a customer? If people knew that a certain security company had done such a thing, the security company would probably not have any business in the future. However, Wang Xingli did it without hesitation. Wang Xingli pried open Li Xiaofeng's mouth with one hand and picked up a large bottle of red wine with the other, pouring it directly into his mouth. Gulp gulp. Li Xiaofeng had no time to swallow the wine, and he could not stop coughing. Regarding this, Wang Xingli turned a blind eye and took another bottle. Eventually, they reached the third bottle. He kept pouring wine into Li Xiaofeng's mouth. Blub. Finally, Li Xiaofeng could not hold on any longer. His eyes rolled back and his body went limp as he fell to the ground. He was completely unresponsive. Lin Fan swept his cold gaze across the hall and said calmly, those who joined Li Xiaofeng in making a ruckus drink 2 bottles as punishment. I hope you don't need my help. Everyone who caught Lin Fan's gaze could not help but shiver. Those who saw Li Xiaofeng's miserable appearance did not dare to hesitate at all. They picked up the red wine and quickly poured it into their mouths. Gulp gulp. Gulp gulp. Everyone present often attended banquets, so they all had somewhat good alcohol tolerance. However, drinking 2 bottles of red wine at once was still unbearable for them. Soon someone started to vomit. Some of them took a few steps and staggered to the ground. Regarding these people, Lin Fan did not care about them. He held Ling Ru's slender hand and slowly walked out of the Grand Hyatt Hotel. 323 Visit, Revenge. Lin Fan brought Ling Ru to the Coiling Dragon Villa. After not seeing each other for a while, the two of them seemed to have endless things to talk about. They did not sleep for the entire night. The next day, on the tender green branches, 2 little sparrows were flapping their wings happily and jumping back and forth. Lin Fan opened his eyes slowly. At this moment, there was no one else on the spacious bed. When Lin Fan came to the living room, Ling Ru came out of the kitchen with a bowl of fragrant noodles. When she saw Lin Fan, she smiled sweetly and said, "Are you hungry? Have some noodles first." "All right," said Lin Fan. He did not stand on ceremony and stuffed the noodles into his mouth. Su Ningjing's noodles were tasty. However, Ling Ru's noodles smelled better. Each bowl of noodles had its own characteristics, and they were both very delicious. He quickly finished the big bowl of noodles. Ling Ru looked at Lin Fan eating so happily, and her face was full of smiles. At this moment, she seemed to have thought of something and said, "Oh right, Lin Fan, President Wang from Xin Mei Entertainment said that he would like to visit you later." Lin Fan said, "All right then." "Okay," Ling Ru replied. Not long after, the crisp sound of the doorbell rang out. Ling Ru opened the door. It was Wang Heahua, President Wang of Xin Mei Entertainment, whom she had just mentioned. Wang Heahua walked in nervously. He bowed slightly and said respectfully, "Hello, Mr. Lin." "Hello," Lin Fan replied. When Wang Heahua found out that Lin Fan had acquired Xin Mei Entertainment, his attitude toward Lin Fan was filled with respect. This was mainly because of money. After he found out about what happened at the Grand Hyatt Hotel yesterday, he was even more afraid of Lin Fan. One had to know. Many celebrities and directors were still lying in the hospital, unable to move. Lin Fan did not say anything, he just picked up his teacup and took a sip of the fragrant spirit tea. His entire body felt comfortable. He was relaxed, but Wang Heiahua was flustered and nervous. A thin layer of sweat gradually appeared on his forehead. Ling Ru, who was beside him, also saw the change in Wang Heiahua. She could not help but say, "President Wang usually takes good care of me. What happened yesterday should be an accident. It's all Li Xiaofeng's fault." Lin Fan said, "Since Ling Ru has spoken up for you, I'll believe you for now, but I don't want something like this to happen again. Do you understand what I mean?" "I understand," Wang Heiahua nodded. "I promise such a thing will never happen again in the future, I guarantee it." Lin Fan picked up his teacup and took another sip of tea. "Is there anything else?" "There's nothing else, Mr. Lin. Ms. Ling, I'll be leaving first. Goodbye," Wang Heiahua said, relieved. For the next 2 days, Lin Fan stayed with Ling Ru at the Coiling Dragon Villa. After 2 days of recuperation, Ling Ru's mental state had improved a lot, and her complexion had become rosy and shiny. On this day, after having breakfast with Lin Fan, she left the Coiling Dragon Villa and headed toward Xin Mei Entertainment. After all, her dream career was there. Lin Fan looked at Ling Ru's back as she left. His face turned cold as he called out, "Lil White." "I'm here, master." The watch on Lin Fan's wrist flickered and made a very clear sound. "Collect the dirt on Li Xiaofeng as well as evidence of his misdeeds," Lin Fan said. "Yes, master," Lil White said. Obviously, Lin Fan had no intention of letting Li Xiaofeng off so easily. At this moment, Li Xiaofeng arrived at Zinel Film and Television. He always had a beer belly and a fat face. Today his steps were a little shaky and his face was pale. It was no wonder that he would be like this. He was forced to drink so much at once that it directly led to alcohol poisoning. Fortunately, he was sent to the hospital and was out of danger. After walking with difficulty for a while, Li Xiaofeng finally arrived at the president's office. "Cousin, you must avenge me," Li Xiaofeng wailed. The bald man sitting inside said, "Xiaofeng, don't worry, I'll help you. Since he dares to touch our people, I definitely won't let him off. It's just that I haven't found out the identity of that man yet." Zinel Film and Television had a very professional information department. They were often able to dig up the private lives of certain celebrities at the first moment. Ever since Li Xiaofeng's accident, the bald man had sent people to investigate Lin Fan. However, even after 2 days they found nothing. This puzzled the bald man. In fact, this was very normal. One had to know that Lin Fan was a great mathematician and scientist. He had made it clear that he would not accept any interviews, so the officials had been trying their best to seal his information. In addition, Lin Fan was also a member of the Dragon Division. It was also because of this that large companies such as Fruit Phone and 4-Star Corporation could not find Lin Fan's contact information at all. At this moment, there was a series of hurried knocks on the door. "Come in," the bald man said. Then, a man wearing silver-rimmed glasses rushed in with a tablet. As he was walking too fast, he accidentally fell to the ground. "How many times have I told you not to panic?" the bald man frowned. The silver-rimmed glasses man quickly got up and said, "Yes, yes." "What is it?" the bald man asked. "There's news about director Li Xiaofeng," answered the man with silver-rimmed glasses. "My news, what is it?" Li Xiaofeng asked, puzzled. The man with silver-rimmed glasses hesitated for a moment before turning on his tablet and reading. In May 2013, Li Xiaofeng became obsessed with Liu Yun. In June 2013, Li Xiaofeng took nude photos of a group of celebrities and forced them to shoot a movie for Zinel Film and Television. Li Xiaofeng's and the bald man's expressions changed drastically as they shouted, "Shut up." They all looked at the man with silver-rimmed glasses coldly. One had to know. These things were all hidden, but in the end, they were found out by outsiders. They had to take measures. The silver-rimmed glasses man was so frightened by the two of them that he could not help but take 2 steps back. A thin layer of sweat appeared on his forehead. Originally he thought that it was slander, but now it seemed, "I'm afraid." "How do you know all this?" the bald man asked coldly. The man with silver-rimmed glasses said, It's on the news now, Weibo Penguin. In today's headlines, the topics are all trending there." "What did you say?" the bald man's pupils constricted. 324 Anger, treat me to dinner. The bald man hurriedly took out his phone and opened Weibo, Penguin News and today's headlines. In the next moment, sweat appeared on his forehead. His entire face was pale and extremely miserable. The news was so detailed. It actually recorded the bad things that Li Xiaofeng had done over the years in such detail. How was this possible? It was over. Zinel Film and Television was over. He was over. Li Xiaofeng saw that his cousin was holding his phone and not saying anything. He immediately had a bad feeling. However, he still opened his mouth and asked, "See, cousin, what's wrong?" When the bald man heard Li Xiaofeng's voice, he suddenly raised his head and looked at him. Although the bald man had not been able to find out all the information about Lin Fan, he knew that when Lin Fan held that concert for Ling Ru, he had used Penguin News, today's headlines and UA browser to promote the concert for a week. Now, Penguin News, today's headlines and Weibo released the scandals about Li Xiaofeng and Zinel Film and Television. Everything was so similar. Clearly this was Lin Fan's doing. Li Xiaofeng. It was all because of Li Xiaofeng. If he had not offended Lin Fan, there would definitely be no problems for him and his company. Thinking of this, the fear in the bald man's heart turned into anger. He clenched his fist and smashed it at Li Xiaofeng's face. He kept punching and kicking. Cousin, stop hitting me," Li Xiaofeng wailed in pain. "Please don't hit me." However, the bald man did not seem to hear him. He continued to punch and kick. He wanted to vent all his anger on Li Xiaofeng. The bald man was also tired of hitting him. He seemed to have thought of something and picked up his phone to press a number. However, at this moment the office door was pushed open. A group of investigators walked in with large strides and said, "You're under arrest." The bald man's phone fell to the ground, and he was extremely dejected. Lil White quickly told Lin Fan about the situation. Lin Fan was quite satisfied with this. At this moment Lin Fan's phone vibrated. 12:00 p.m. The red packets were here. Ding, congratulations, you've received 5 yuan. Ding, congratulations, you've received 18,888 yuan. Ding, congratulations, you've obtained a food critical hit card. Ding, congratulations, you've received 999 yuan. Ding, congratulations, you've obtained Tribute Garden Restaurant. This time, Lin Fan received a total of 54,889 yuan, a food critical hit card and Tribute Garden Restaurant. He ignored the 54,889 yuan. As for the food critical hit card, Lin Fan was more familiar with it. After eating, he could get 100 to 10,000 times the consumption amount. Not long ago, Lin Fan had invited his classmates to AC Clubhouse to hang out and had used it to earn 890 million. As for Tribute Garden Restaurant, Lin Fan had read about it on the internet. It was a 2-star Michelin restaurant in the eastern district of Jiangbei. The dishes were delicious. Many people even said that it had 3 Michelin stars. In the past, Lin Fan had thought of going there for a meal. However, because the distance was too far, he chose to give up. He did not expect that the restaurant would actually belong to him now. Lin Fan muttered, "At least it's not all cash. A food critical hit card, Tribute Garden Restaurant. My luck today is pretty good. Anyway, I have nothing to do, so I'll go to the restaurant to try the dishes there." Lin Fan did as he said. He drove the Mercedes-Benz G-Class toward Tribute Garden Restaurant, which was 50 kilometers away. Even though Lin Fan had excellent driving skills, he still spent more than an hour to reach his destination due to the congested roads. Xia Yan was a woman who loved delicious food. After she finished her work in Eastborough, she drove her Porsche Cayenne straight to the famous Tribute Garden restaurant and found a table. Zia Yan had a head of black hair, exquisite facial features, and a charming figure. Soon, she attracted the attention of the people around her. A man in his 30s who was wearing a branded suit took the initiative to walk over and said in a very gentlemanly tone, "Pretty lady, you seem to be alone. Do you mind if I sit beside you and treat you to a meal?" Zia Yan had been in society for more than 10 years. She could tell at a glance that under his gentlemanly appearance he had a filthy mind. Zia Yan's pretty face immediately revealed a look of disgust. Just as she was about to speak, her beautiful eyes unexpectedly saw a familiar figure. It was Lin Fan. At this moment, Lin Fan caught sight of Zia Yan. Lin Fan had once thought that Zia Yan, Zia Zhu, and Zia Bing might be family members through the smell of Zia Yan's perfume and her favorable impression of him. Zia Bing's and Zia Zhu's family members were his own family members. Hence Lin Fan strode forward and greeted, "Hello, Ms. Zia, what a coincidence." From the conversation and interaction last time, Lin Fan knew that Zia Yan had been hiding her relationship with Zia Bing and Zia Zhu. That was why Lin Fan did not call her sister Zia. Besides, Lin Fan also felt that Zia Yan would not like this title. Moreover, it did not match Zia Yan's young and stunning appearance. Zia Yan smiled and said, "Yes, what a coincidence." She had already planned to hit on Lin Fan the last time she watched the concert. However, she had been a little busy with work in the company recently. Therefore, she temporarily shelved the idea. She did not expect to meet Lin Fan today. Zia Yan looked at the man in the branded suit and then at Lin Fan. Her big black eyes shifted as she smiled. "Are you going to treat me to a meal again today?" Lin Fan still remembered that he had treated Zia Yan to a meal at Star Restaurant to complete a mission. Her words made sense. Lin Fan smiled. "That's right, I wonder if Ms. Zia would do me the honor." After all, Zia Yan was a family member of Zia Bing and Zia Zhu, which meant that she was also his own family member. There was nothing wrong with treating his relatives to a meal. "Is that so? However, this man also wants to treat me to a meal." The man in the branded suit quickly straightened his chest and said, "Ms. Zia, this restaurant's bird's nest, sea cucumber, premium caviar, tuna, and sea urchin all taste very good." As he spoke, he even deliberately raised his 200,000 yuan denden traversing 4 seas watch. "Moreover, the dishes are served very quickly here. It only takes 10 minutes for us to taste these delicacies." He deliberately mentioned a bunch of expensive dishes, and at the same time revealed his watch in what he thought was an unintentional move. He showed off his identity as a rich man. It had to be said that the man in the branded suit had a certain method of picking up women. If it were someone else, they would probably be attracted by him. Unfortunately, he was facing Zia Yan. Zia Yan blinked her big black eyes and said, "Is that so? Now that you mention it, I'm getting a little greedy." As she spoke, she deliberately swallowed her saliva. After a pause, Zia Yan continued, "But both of you want to treat me to a meal. Who should I eat with?" You guys can order separately. I'll go to whichever table has the best food." The man in the suit did not hesitate at all and said directly, "This is a good idea." From his point of view, Zia Yan and Lin Fan seemed to know each other. However, they should not be too familiar. Perhaps Lin Fan was one of Zia Yan's pursuers. At this time, he should be generous and satisfy Zia Yan's wishes unconditionally. That way, it would be easier to capture her heart. The suited man did not even consider that Zia Yan was Lin Fan's admirer. Tribute Garden Restaurant was a well-known restaurant in Jiangbei. It was packed with people every day. The man in a suit waved his hand and shouted, "Waiter, I wish to order." Soon a tall and thin waiter walked over. "Snow toad, tigerhead fish, carved wave dragon, sea urchin with egg. I'll just order these for the time being." The man in a suit ordered 7 or 8 dishes in a row, and the total price was more than 20,000 yuan. Regardless of the appearance, taste, or price of these dishes, he believed that they would definitely attract Zia Yan. After the man in the suit finished speaking, he did not forget to throw a provocative look at Lin Fan. That look, it was as if he was saying, "Kid, it's your turn to order now." Lin Fan had a weird look on his face. This was his own restaurant, and he was competing with him in ordering dishes. It seemed interesting. However, Lin Fan did not order immediately. Instead, he slowly flipped through the menu. After all, this was his own restaurant. If he did not even know what delicious food his restaurant served, it would be a little inappropriate. It had to be said that Tribute Garden Restaurant was very efficient. After a while, the delicacies ordered by the man in a suit were served. Just as he had expected, the food was high-end and fragrant. It was very tempting. The man in the suit cleared his throat and was about to say something to Zia Yan. At this moment, Lin Fan pointed at the man in the suit and said to the waiter beside him, "On top of what he just ordered, I wish to add rain tofu, boiled cabbage, top-grade bird's nest, and deep-sea crab flour." The waiter quickly wrote it down and replied, "Okay, please wait a moment." After saying that, he turned around and left. The man in the suit opened his mouth but did not say anything immediately. He picked up the menu and started calculating the price of the dishes that Lin Fan added. Rain tofu cost 1,800 yuan a serving, boiled cabbage cost 2,200 yuan a serving. The dishes that Lin Fan added cost close to 20,000. In addition to the 20,000 yuan worth of dishes he ordered, it was a total of 40,000 yuan. The man in the suit hesitated for a while. Finally, he gritted his teeth. However, his face remained calm as he said, "Waiter, bring me a serving of all the dishes he just added. In addition, I'll have the delicious top-grade abalone, the fragrant beef with potatoes, and the spicy eel." This time, he added another 10,000 yuan worth of dishes. Although the man in the suit was indeed a little wealthy and indeed attracted to Zia Yan, spending 50,000 yuan for a meal still made him feel extremely pained. Therefore, the man in a suit said in a gentlemanly tone, "Forget it, that's all. If he adds more dishes, the table won't be able to fit all of them. Moreover, he won't be able to finish them. It's a waste. Now the country is trying to be more resourceful. We should follow the country's footsteps." It had to be said that the man in a suit put it very well. If Lin Fan continued to add dishes, then he would be labeled as a wastrel. If Lin Fan did not add any more dishes, then there was no doubt that there would be more dishes on his side and the food would be even more delicious. Zia Yan would eat with him. How smart was Lin Fan? He easily understood the meaning in the man's words, but he did not care. Lin Fan looked at the menu a few more times before closing it again. When the man in the suit saw this, a smug look appeared on his face. He thought that Lin Fan had ordered too many dishes and could not afford to add any more. The man in the suit looked at Lin Fan with disdain, then he smiled at Zia Yan. He seemed to have already pictured Zia Yan eating with him. They would talk and laugh during the meal later. At this moment, Lin Fan said, "Waiter, how many employees are here?" The waiter was stunned for a moment. However, he had always believed that the customer was always right. "About 100 people, what can I do for you?" Lin Fan did some calculations in his heart and said, "There are a total of 101 dishes on this menu. How about this? Bring 2 servings of all the dishes on the menu. In addition, I'll get 20 bottles of Flying Maodai, 20 bottles of 2009 Shady Lafite, and a total of 50 bottles of various drinks." The waiter was obviously stunned when he heard that. In fact, not only was the waiter stunned, but Zia Yan and the man in the suit were also stunned. That was 202 dishes. Even if the average price of each dish was only 1,000 yuan, it would still cost 200,000 yuan. 20 bottles of Flying Maodai. If each bottle cost 5,000 yuan, that would be 100,000 yuan. 20 bottles of 2009 Shady Lafite. Each bottle was about 20,000 yuan, so it was 400,000 yuan. Even without the dishes that Lin Fan had ordered, it was already 700,000 yuan. Zia Yan opened her mouth as if she wanted to say something. "Waiter, didn't you hear that?" the man in the suit said first. "Hurry up and serve the dishes according to this gentleman's instructions. Could it be that this is how Tribute Garden Restaurant provides services?" He did not want to give Lin Fan a chance to go back on his words. He wanted to see Lin Fan make a fool of himself. After a pause, the man in the suit continued, by the way, this person and I don't have any relationship with him, I'm just a passerby, I just can't stand your service. He let it be known that he had no relationship with Lin Fan. Otherwise, if Lin Fan suddenly said that he needed to go to the toilet later, he might take the chance to slip away quietly. Before he slipped away, he might even say that his friend would pay for it. Would he not suffer a huge loss then? Similar things often happened in TV shows. The man in a suit was taking precautions. The waiter only came back to his senses after hearing the man in a suit's words. However, he still repeated this. Sir, are you ordering 2 servings of all the dishes on the menu, 20 bottles of Flying Moutai, 20 bottles of 2009 Shady Lafite, and a total of 50 bottles of various drinks? Yes, Lin Fan said with certainty. The waiter hesitated for a moment before saying, all right, please wait a moment. After the waiter left, the atmosphere became a little dull. Lin Fan remained calm. On the other hand, the man in the suit was all smiles. At this moment, a waiter served the dishes that the man in a suit had just added, filling the table. The colors were gorgeous and the fragrance assailed the nose. It whetted one's appetite. The man in the suit took a deep breath and swallowed. He resisted the urge to eat with his chopsticks and said in a gentlemanly tone, "This gentleman ordered more than 200 dishes. I think it'll definitely take a long time to serve everything." At this point, the man in the suit could not help but laugh. When he thought about the scene of more than 200 dishes being served and Lin Fan not being able to afford them, he was extremely happy. After a while, the man in the suit suppressed his laughter and said, "Ms. Zia, come to my table to eat first." There were indeed many materialistic women in this world. However, even materialistic women mostly disliked fools and nouveau rich. Therefore, the man in the suit felt that Zia Yan would definitely eat with him. However, all of this was just an assumption. Zia Yan said Lin Fan ordered more than 200 delicious dishes and dozens of bottles of good wine. Of course, the dishes at his table are more delicious. I can just eat there. The man in the suit opened his mouth and wanted to say something else. At this moment, the waiter who had taken Lin Fan's order earlier brought a middle-aged man in a black suit who looked very calm and experienced. He walked over in large strides. The waiter pointed at Lin Fan and said, "General Manager, this is the customer who ordered 202 dishes and dozens of bottles of wine." The general manager looked in the direction the waiter was pointing at. In the next moment, his pupils shrank slightly. Today, he suddenly found out that Tribute Garden Restaurant had a new boss. The new boss was called Lin Fan. When the general manager saw Lin Fan's photo, he was shocked. He was too young. The general manager had been thinking about it the entire day. When would he meet this young new boss? He did not expect to see him in the blink of an eye. The general manager ran to Lin Fan and bowed slightly. He said in an extremely respectful tone, "Hello, Mr. Lin." Lin Fan raised his head and asked, "You are?" "I'm Tu Zhiqiang, the general manager of Tribute Garden Restaurant." Lin Fan nodded his head. "Mr. Lin, I'm really sorry, I didn't know you were coming. Otherwise, I would have brought all the staff of Tribute Garden Restaurant to welcome you at the door." Lin Fan waved his hand and said, "There's no need to do all that." Tu Zhiqiang repeatedly nodded. "I heard from the waiter that you ordered more than 200 dishes. Are you going to treat some guests to a meal? We have a luxurious private room upstairs. I'll arrange it for you now." Lin Fan shook his head. "No need, this is fine. However, after the chef finishes cooking the dishes I ordered, you can stop serving customers. Then let all the employees come over." "All right," Tu Zhiqiang said. The man in the suit was stunned when he heard their conversation. "Lin Fan, how did this young man know the general manager of Tribute Garden Restaurant?" Seeing that Tu Zhiqiang was about to leave, the man in the suit could not help but say, "Who exactly is Mr. Lin?" "He's the boss of our Tribute Garden Restaurant," Tu Zhiqiang said. Silence. The entire area suddenly fell silent. The man in the suit was completely dumbfounded. Meanwhile, Zia Yan's pretty face was filled with splendor. She knew that Lin Fan had a supercar. Therefore, even if he ordered more than 200 dishes and dozens of bottles of good wine, Lin Fan would definitely have no problem paying for them. However, Xia Yan had never thought that Tribute Garden Restaurant belonged to Lin Fan. At this moment, Xia Yan could not help but recall how Lin Fan had asked about the number of employees before ordering the dishes. She had some understanding in her heart. At this moment, exquisite dishes were served one after another, completely filling the surrounding 10 tables. On Lin Fan's table, there were only some dishes that he had ordered. Then, the 100 employees of Tribute Garden Restaurant, including supervisors, waiters, cashiers, chefs, and so on, all put down what they were doing and came to the hall. They stood straight in front of Lin Fan like soldiers who were being inspected. Lin Fan said, "Everyone, don't be so restrained, just be casual. I know that it's very tiring for all of you to work here, so I'll treat everyone to a meal today to comfort you. Today your job is to eat and drink well." When the employees heard this, their eyes lit up as they shouted, "Thank you, boss." One had to know, all the delicious dishes of Tribute Garden Restaurant were placed here. In addition, there were also bottles of Maodai and Lafite that were worth tens of thousands. They were all precious and good wines that they did not even dare to imagine. They could enjoy everything today. Then the employees sat around the tables and ate heartily. The atmosphere at the scene was very heated. Lin Fan picked up a piece of food and put it into his mouth. He nodded and said, "The taste is indeed not bad, Ms. Xia, have some too." "All right," Xia Yan replied with a smile. The man in a suit sitting at the table next to them looked at Xia Yan and Lin Fan talking and laughing. He recalled his previous actions and wished he could find a hole to hide in. He thought of getting up and leaving. However, when the man in the suit saw that he had spent 50,000 yuan on a table of dishes, he forced himself to stay. He picked up his chopsticks and stuffed the delicacies into his mouth. He had to work hard to eat more so that the money he spent would be worth it. He wolfed down the food, his mouth full of grease. Compared to the man who was wolfing down the food, Lin Fan and Xia Yan were leisurely enjoying themselves. After Lin Fan was full, he wiped his mouth and said to the man in the suit, "Now, the country is trying to be resourceful. We should follow in the footsteps of the country. We can't waste food." The man in the suit who had been wolfing down his food blushed when he heard this. These were the words he had said to Lin Fan previously. In the end, Lin Fan returned them to him. Lin Fan did not bother with the man in the suit anymore. He turned to Tu Zhiqiang and said, "Get someone to calculate how much it costs." As he spoke, he handed over a bank card. "Mr. Lin, this," Tu Zhiqiang hesitated. After all, Lin Fan was the new boss of Tribute Garden Restaurant. How could a boss treat his employees to a meal in his own restaurant and be charged money? Lin Fan said, "I'm treating everyone to a meal. Of course, I'm paying for it, moreover. Everyone has invested time and energy in their work. If I can't even give you a small reward like this, then I, as the boss, am too unreasonable." "Thank you, boss," Tu Zhiqiang said gratefully. He swiped the bank card on the machine, and a long receipt appeared. It was a total of 90,189 yuan. Obviously, this was more than the money he had estimated earlier. Lin Fan did not care about that at all. At the same time, 90 red packets appeared on his phone, and a clear voice sounded in his mind. "Ding, do you want to use the food critical hit card? 327 coincidence, rescue." Lin Fan was not surprised by this notification at all. He thought to himself, yes. Ding, the food critical hit card was successfully used, reaching 1,000 times the consumption amount. Congratulations, you've received 901,889,000 yuan. Another 1,000 times. He spent 900,000 yuan to treat his employees to a meal and received 900 million yuan. This deal was worth it. Lin Fan then said to Tu Zhiqiang, "This month, everyone's bonus will be increased by 10,000 yuan." After all, the 900 million yuan was due to the employees' contributions. It was reasonable to reward them a little. "Thank you, boss," all the employees shouted excitedly. Lin Fan looked at the man in the suit who was still eating. Then he walked out with Xia Yan. Zia Yan was just about to say something to Lin Fan when the phone in her pocket rang. All right. All right, I'll come over now. After hanging up, Zia Yan said to Lin Fan helplessly, I wanted to have a drink with you, but it seems we can only do it next time. Lin Fan said, there'll still be opportunities in the future. See you next time, Zia Yan nodded. After saying that, she got into the Porsche, stepped on the accelerator and sped off into the distance. Obviously, she had something urgent to attend to. Lin Fan also got into the Mercedes-Benz and sped off into the distance. When he reached a junction, the Mercedes-Benz G-Class suddenly turned off. Lin Fan relied on inertia to stop the car by the side of the road and called for a tow truck. Not long after the Mercedes-Benz G-Class was towed away, a crisp voice rang out not far away. Lin Fan. The next moment his eyes lit up and he said, Chen Zin. It really is you, Chen Zin said happily. Then Chen Zin took a step forward and jogged to Lin Fan. What a coincidence, I didn't expect to meet you here, Chen Zin said. Yeah, I didn't expect it either, Lin Fan said. By the way, didn't you go to Peng City with your parents to start a business? Why are you in Jiangbei? In the first year of high school, in order to make the students not talk in class, the teacher adopted a method of letting girls and guys be deskmates. Lin Fan and Chen Zin were assigned to be deskmates. At that time, Lin Fan was tall and handsome. Chen Zin was sweet and adorable. Both parties had a good impression of each other. They bought breakfast for each other, went to school together, left school together, and did homework together. However, Chen Zin's parents had to go to Peng City to do business, so she transferred schools and left. The two of them did not do anything that a couple should do. For a long time, Lin Fan regretted it. At that time, Lin Fan's family was poor and he didn't have a phone. The two of them lost contact just like that. However, they did not expect to meet again after so many years. In Lin Fan's memory, Chen Zin had always been wearing a blue and white school uniform. She had her hair tied up in a ponytail and her body was relatively thin. Chen Zin was a budding flower back in school, and she was thought to become the most beautiful girl in the world in the future. The present Chen Zin was a gorgeous flower that had completely bloomed, causing people to be mesmerized. Lin Fan could not help but use his eyes of true sight to observe Chen Zin. Appearance 96. Favorability 80. The land price in Peng City has been too expensive these past few years, Chen Zin said. My dad felt that it wasn't worth it, so he came back to Jiangbei. Are you based in Jiangbei? She asked. For now, Lin Fan said, I'm studying at Jiangbei University. Jiangbei University, Lin Fan, you're amazing. As Chen Zin spoke, her beautiful eyes lit up. Lin Fan rubbed his nose and said, What about you? Are you working in Jiangbei? Yes, I'm a nurse at Central Hospital, Chen Zin said. At this moment, on the sidewalk not far away, a man in his 30s fell to the ground. The passers-by could not help but let out a wave of discussions and screams. Someone fainted. Should I call an ambulance? The reason why Chen Zin became a nurse was definitely not to make a living. It was because she loved this profession very much. She felt a sense of pride and joy from the bottom of her heart. Therefore, when she heard that someone had fainted, she did not bother to continue chatting with Lin Fan. She ran toward the fainted man and shouted, I'm a nurse from Central Hospital. The onlookers quickly made way for her. A nurse is here. That's great. Chen Zin first checked the man's pupils, then she placed her hand on the man's nose to feel his breathing. She felt that the man's breathing was very weak. Therefore, Chen Zin kept pressing on the man's chest with her hands to perform first aid. Her movements were very standard. However, sometimes it was not possible to successfully save someone just by relying on first aid. The man's breathing became weaker and weaker, and his face was pale as if he would die at any moment. The surrounding pedestrians also noticed this and began to discuss it. No, this man can't take it anymore. Is this woman a nurse or not? Rescuing was a very exhausting task. Chen Zin continued to perform emergency treatment for a few minutes. Beads of sweat gradually seeped out of her snow-white skin. She listened to the discussions of the people around her and felt the man's breathing getting weaker and weaker. She was physically and mentally exhausted. A deep sense of powerlessness and self-denial filled his heart. At this moment, Lin Fan said, "Let me do it, I can save him." Lin Fan's words were like a stream of spring water that washed over Chen Xin's dry heart. As he spoke, Lin Fan spent 10 million yuan to buy a bottle of medical water from the system. Then he poured it into the man's mouth. To the current Lin Fan, 10 million yuan for a bottle of medical water was nothing. Of course, he was not a good person who would immediately save someone when he saw them fall sick. If that were the case, then no matter how much money Lin Fan had, it would not be enough to save everybody. Lin Fan did it for Chen Xin. He wanted her to be happy. After the man drank the medicine, his breathing became much more stable. Then, his face gradually became rosy. Seeing this, the passers-by around them shouted, "He seems to be fine now. Yes, he looks much better. There should be no problem." As if to verify what the passers-by said, the man lying on the ground slowly opened his eyes. He seemed to be in a daze. He looked around blankly and got up to leave. The passers-by immediately shouted, "Hey, someone saved you and you didn't even say thank you. Where are your manners?" The man finally reacted and turned to Lin Fan and Chen Xin, "Thank you." The man's hair was a little messy because of the fall. However, the man did not care. After he finished speaking, he continued to walk into the distance. When he walked into an alley, he took out his phone. After a moment of hesitation, he made a call. "Is this Brother Zhang?" "What is it?" A deep voice came from the phone. "I want to sell my organs," the man with messy hair said. "Oh, who are you? Where did you get my number?" the deep voice said. "I have cancer. I heard about you from a patient. I want to trade my body for some good days," the man said. "All right," the deep voice said. The surrounding pedestrians, Lin Fan, Chen Xin, and the others had no idea about the phone call between the man with the messy hair and the other man. Seeing that there was no more fun to watch, the surrounding pedestrians scattered. "Lin Fan, you know how to save people?" Chen Xin asked. Lin Fan waved his hand and smiled. "It was just a coincidence." "That was too close. I thought that man was going to die," Chen Xin nodded. Speaking of this, Chen Xin seemed to recall the scene of the man almost losing his ability to breathe, and her entire face turned slightly pale. "I've only seen this happen in movies," Chen Xin said after a while. "I didn't expect to experience it personally." Lin Fan nodded his head in agreement. Chen Xin laughed and said, "When we were desk mates, we even said that we wanted to watch a movie together. In the end, even until I transferred schools, we still didn't manage to." After saying this, Chen Xin's pretty face revealed a hint of reminiscence. It was as if she had returned to the carefree, youthful days when she had a ponytail. Then Chen Xin said with a tone full of anticipation, "Lin Fan, why don't we go watch a movie now?" "All right," Lin Fan smiled. "My car is just ahead," Chen Xin said. As she spoke, she took out her car keys and pressed them lightly. Not far away, the headlights of a red Mini Cooper flashed slightly. Seeing this, Lin Fan could not help but reveal a strange look. Another Mini Cooper. Why were all the women related to him driving Mini Coopers? Not long after, the two of them arrived at giant screen Shadow City not far away. Lin Fan and Chen Xin were not picky about which movie to watch. Hence they chose The Past Us, which would be playing in 10 minutes. The plot of this movie was relatively simple. However, it was basically a retelling of all the things that Lin Fan and Chen Xin should have experienced but did not. The two of them watched it very seriously. After the movie ended, Lin Fan and Chen Xin became even closer. When the two of them walked out of the cinema, there was a sudden exclamation from the side. "Chen Xin!" A woman wearing a gray t-shirt and blue jeans walked over. She had an oval face and scored about 80 points in beauty. "Jimin," Chen Xin turned around and said. Zhang Jimin first looked at Lin Fan and chuckled. "No wonder you didn't want to watch a movie with me. It turns out that you had a date with a handsome man." Chen Xin's pretty face blushed as she said, "Ooh, Jimin." All right, I understand. I won't disturb your sweet time with this handsome man today. However, when there's a chance, you must treat me to a meal. Zhang Jimin smiled. Then she sighed and said, it's a pity that those handsome men in our hospital are going to be heartbroken. Zhang Jimin did not wait for Chen Xin's explanation and strode away. Chen Xin looked at Lin Fan shyly and stuttered, she just loves to joke. After a pause, Chen Xin continued, the main character in the movie kept eating hot pot. I'm starting to crave it. There's a hot pot restaurant nearby, let's go and eat together. It was true that scenes of the characters eating hot pot appeared a lot in the movie. Lin Fan was also craving it. He smiled and said, I want to eat hot pot too, let's go. Chen Xin's face immediately broke into a smile. Not long after, the two of them arrived at a hot pot restaurant called Heiyu. They had just walked to the door when they were greeted by a fragrant and spicy smell. They looked inside and saw that most of the tables were filled with people. Everyone was eating and chatting very comfortably. After Lin Fan and Chen Xin sat down, they ordered some prawn rolls, beef rolls, and mutton rolls. As the spicy broth boiled, the two of them ate until their foreheads were covered in sweat, and the atmosphere became even more heated. They began to tell stories about their high school, complaining about their high school teachers and classmates. They also chatted about each other's experiences. They would laugh from time to time, looking extremely happy. The two of them ate for a long time. When the sky turned completely dark, their meal slowly ended. Lin Fan and Chen Xin walked along the winding street. Their shadows were long and long under the light. At this moment, it was as if they had returned to their high school days. At this moment, the man with the messy hair was blindfolded. He got into a van and arrived at a dilapidated factory. When he took off his blindfold, he saw many fierce men standing around him. The man with the messy hair was flustered and could not help but swallow his saliva. The man with stubble who sat in front said, "What's your name?" The man with messy hair recognized that this was Brother Zhang, whom he had just called. Yu Huan. Brother Zhang said, "You have cancer and you want to sell your organs." Yes, the man said. But do you know this? After getting cancer, your internal organs have all changed. Are you trying to make fun of me? Brother Zhang shouted. A group of fierce-looking men walked toward the man with messy hair. It looked as if they wanted to cut him into pieces immediately. The man with the messy hair was so frightened that his entire body trembled. He stuttered, I didn't know, I just want to live a more relaxed life. Brother Zhang pondered for a moment and said in a clear voice, although your internal organs are affected, your corneas can still be used. As soon as he said that, the surrounding fiendish people stopped in their tracks. The man with messy hair also heaved a sigh of relief. This was just Brother Zhang's method of probing. After all, this was a very dangerous line of work. If they were not careful, they would end up in jail. The performance of the man with messy hair just now clearly showed that he had passed Brother Zhang's test. How much money can I get? The man asked. 50,000, Brother Zhang said. All right, the man gritted his teeth and said. Brother Zhang said, first we'll draw a tube of blood from you, then you'll be given a 20,000 yuan deposit. Within 3 months we'll come and collect the items and pay you the rest of the money. As he spoke, he took out 2 stacks of red banknotes. The next day, Chen Xin arrived at Jiangbei Central Hospital in a pure white nurse uniform. From the moment she walked into the hospital, she did not even have the time to greet her colleagues. She checked the wards, gave an infusion, and made calls. This only stopped when it was time for her to change shifts. Although she was tired, Chen Xin felt very fulfilled and proud. The tall and thin nurse who was on the same shift as Chen Xin asked, "How about we hang out tonight?" "All right," Zhang Jimin said. The male doctor wearing silver-rimmed glasses asked, "Chen Xin, do you want to go?" Before Chen Xin could reply, Zhang Jimin giggled and said, Xin, are you going on a date with that handsome guy today?" Chen Xin's pretty face turned red. When the tall and thin nurse heard this, her urge to gossip burned within her. "What handsome guy? Xin, tell me, I don't know anything about this yet." Chen Xin said, "Actually, he was my high school desk mate." "Heavens, is this the real-life version of those romance movies?" the tall and thin nurse shouted with excitement. Zhang Jimin obviously did not expect Lin Fan to be Chen Xin's high school deskmate. She also revealed a look of excitement. They were excited, but the doctor wearing silver-rimmed glasses beside them had a very ugly expression. The doctor with silver-rimmed glasses had always liked Chen Xin. It was because of this that he used his connections to transfer to Chen Xin's department. He also kept his schedule consistent with Chen Xin's. He just wanted to be close to her. However, what was the result? In the end, Chen Xin was actually won over by someone else. How could this not anger the doctor with silver-rimmed glasses? The doctor with silver-rimmed glasses took 2 deep breaths and tried his best to calm himself down before saying, "Let's hang out together today and relax. Chen Xin, ask your high school deskmate to come over too. That way we can meet him. What do you think?" "All right. I agree." The 2 nurses and the round-faced doctor agreed. Chen Xin said, "But he's really just my high school deskmate." All right, we know, it's still fine to have a meal together," Nurse Zhang Jimin said. Chen Xin had no choice but to send a message to Lin Fan. Chen Xin asked, "Can you come to Central Hospital later and have a meal with me and my friends?" Eh? At this moment, Lin Fan was lying on the sofa in the Coiling Dragon Villa. When he saw the message on his phone, his fingers moved quickly as he replied. Lin Fan replied, "All right, I'll be right there." After all, it was already lunchtime. Moreover, he enjoyed the meal yesterday. The Mercedes-Benz G was still undergoing maintenance work. Hence, Lin Fan got into the Lamborghini and stepped on the accelerator. The exhaust pipe immediately spewed out a wisp of smoke. The entire car was like a roaring beast as it sped forward. About 20 minutes later, he parked the car in the parking lot of Jiangbei Central Hospital. At this moment, Chen Xin happened to come downstairs and called out, "Lin Fan." As she spoke, she jogged to Lin Fan. "He's really handsome," the tall and thin nurse behind praised. Xin, you have good taste." "My colleagues said that they want to have a gathering," Chen Xin explained. "They kept asking me to call you over. I'm not wasting your time, am I?" Lin Fan laughed and said, "How could it be? Moreover, it's more lively with more people eating together." A smile appeared on Chen Xin's face. "Why are you standing here?" Zhang Jimin asked. "Let's go to the restaurant and chat while eating." Yes, the tall and thin nurse said. Then Chen Xin took out her car keys and pressed them lightly. The Mini Cooper's headlights flashed slightly not far away. "Lin Fan, let's go, my car is over there," Chen Xin said. Initially, Lin Fan wanted to drive his Lamborghini. However, after hearing Chen Xin's words, he followed her and walked toward the Mini Cooper. It did not matter if he did not drive the Lamborghini. When the doctor with silver-rimmed glasses saw this, he thought to himself, "Lin Fan doesn't have a car." He first looked at Lin Fan with disdain. Then his eyes moved slightly as if he was planning something. "Dr. Liu, I'm afraid we can't ride in Xin's car. Do you mind if we ride in your BMW 530? "Of course not," the doctor with silver-rimmed glasses said. Before long, the group arrived at the entrance of a restaurant called Rolling Restaurant. Before they could enter, they heard loud noises. Looking inside, almost all the tables were filled with people. Business was booming. When the waiter saw Lin Fan and the others, he quickly came over and asked, "How many of you are there?" "6," Zhang Jimin said. The waiter brought them to a 6-seater table in the middle. After the few of them ordered, the tall and thin nurse said, Xin, you haven't even married him yet and you're already helping your handsome boyfriend save money. I thought we were going to eat abalone and lobster today." "Lin Fan is my high school deskmate," Chen Xin said shyly. "I'm paying for this meal today." Yes, he's your high school deskmate." "Lin Fan, are you also in the medical field?" asked the round-faced doctor. "No, I'm still studying at Jiangbei University," Lin Fan said. Not bad, a student from Jiangbei University," the tall and thin nurse said. The doctor with silver-rimmed glasses looked at Lin Fan with even more disdain. After all this time, he was still a student. Perhaps in the eyes of many ordinary people, being able to get into Jiangbei University was a very impressive thing. However, in the eyes of the doctor with silver-rimmed glasses, it was nothing. How many graduates from famous universities spent money to become interns under him? Even if they worked themselves to death every day, these interns still did not manage to stay. Oh right, I remember that Dr. Liu graduated from Jiangbei University as well, right? Asked the tall and thin nurse. The doctor with silver-rimmed glasses puffed out his chest and said, "Yes, I did." Then he said in the tone of an elder, "Lin Fan, is there a teacher called Feng Weijian in your school?" Yeah. Lin Fan and Feng Weijian had seen each other several times. Most people would remember someone after seeing them so many times. Furthermore, Lin Fan had a photographic memory. Yes, he's the vice-chancellor of our school. The doctor with silver-rimmed glasses sighed. I didn't expect him to be the vice-chancellor already. I remember that he was just the director of the school at that time. At this point, the doctor with silver-rimmed glasses had a look of reminiscence on his face. Dr. Liu, are you very familiar with Vice-Chancellor Feng? The tall and thin nurse asked. That's right, at that time I was the president of the student union. I had a very good relationship with him. Ever since I graduated, he often sent me messages to ask about my recent situation, the doctor with silver-rimmed glasses said. The tall and thin nurse, the round-faced doctor, and Zhang Jimin all gave him a thumbs up and exclaimed in admiration. Dr. Liu, you're amazing. I can't believe you're so close to the vice-chancellor of Jiangbei University. I've never seen the chancellor of my school. Dr. Liu, you have to ask the vice-chancellor to take care of Lin Fan. Eh? When the doctor with silver-rimmed glasses heard everyone's praise, he felt a little smug. He clasped his hands behind his back and raised his head. Since we know each other now, Lin Fan, I'll talk to Vice-Chancellor Feng about you later. As he spoke, he did not forget to glance at Chen Xin. It was as if he was saying, Chen Xin, I'm familiar with the Vice-Chancellor. That's how amazing I am. At this moment, a crisp sound came from the stage. Welcome to Rolling Restaurant. Today we've prepared a singing performance for everyone. Anyone who can score above 90 points on stage will receive a 2,000 yuan voucher. Everyone is welcome to sing on stage. Here, I'll sing a song for everyone to get things started. As soon as the person finished speaking, a burst of light music sounded from the restaurant. The host slowly opened his mouth and sang a cheerful song. After the song ended, two numbers appeared on the big screen behind him, 85. The venue immediately erupted into extremely enthusiastic applause. The tall and thin nurse said, if you sing, you'll have a chance to get a 2,000 yuan voucher. Dr. Liu, you're a talent in our hospital. Hurry up and sing a song. Yes, yes, the round-faced doctor said. The doctor with silver-rimmed glasses did not expect that there would be a singing event with a voucher as a prize today. Just as the tall and thin nurse and the round-faced doctor said, he was indeed a person with talents and was often proud of it. During this period of time, he had been looking forward to the hospital holding a cultural gala. When the time came, he would definitely sign up to sing on stage. The doctor with the silver-rimmed glasses believed that as long as he sang beautifully on stage, he would definitely be able to attract Chen Xin. Unfortunately, the hospital was too busy and there were not many opportunities to hold cultural galas. Unexpectedly, he could sing in front of Chen Xin today. The doctor with silver-rimmed glasses could already see Chen Xin's infatuated expression after hearing his singing. A faint smile appeared on his face. Hence, the doctor with silver-rimmed glasses said, since you've put it that way, I'll go up and sing. However, I hope you won't laugh at me if I don't sing well. As soon as he finished speaking, the silver-rimmed glasses doctor strode up to the stage. God said that in my previous life I had to look back 300 times in exchange for a chance encounter in this life. Today, we're able to meet each other and I'm standing here singing for everyone. This shows that we had a great relationship in our previous life and we have a great fate in this life. The doctor with silver-rimmed glasses did not sing. Instead, he started to talk about what he thought was philosophical. With this, he thought that he would be able to raise his status. At the same time, he secretly expressed to Chen Xin the fate between them. He believed that he had planted a seed in Chen Xin's heart. As long as he finished singing later, he would definitely be able to let this seed gradually take root, germinate, and grow healthily. After a while, the doctor with silver-rimmed glasses said, next up, I'll be singing a song called Fate. I hope everyone will like it. The music started. The doctor with silver-rimmed glasses closed his eyes and opened his mouth. Even if there was no agreement in our previous life, we've been waiting foolishly in this life. Is it fate to be together in the vast sea of people? Why not let bygones be bygones? Eh? The doctor with silver-rimmed glasses deliberately dragged out his tone, and his voice sounded cadenced to emphasize his own voice. He felt that this would make him look more affectionate and attract Chen Xin's attention. Only two people who love each other and know each other can help each other through this life. After the last line of the lyrics was sung, the music stopped. Then the big screen behind him showed the score, 78. He was quite satisfied with this score. However, when he returned to his seat, he sighed and said, "Look, you wanted me to go up and sing. Now I've made a fool of myself, haven't I?" "You call this making a fool?" the tall and thin nurse asked. "Dr. Liu, you sang very well. All of our hands were swollen from clapping. In fact, I think you almost sounded the same as the original singer." The doctor with silver-rimmed glasses waved his hand and said, "Don't flatter me. How can I compare to the original singer? My score is only 78 points." He looked ashamed on the surface, but he was so happy that he could not control himself. Everyone's hands were swollen. Did this not mean that Chen Xin was also clapping hard for him? As expected, his singing was very charming. If he had done this a little earlier, perhaps Chen Xin would. However, someone else had taken the lead. Even so, he still had a chance. Thinking of this, the doctor with silver-rimmed glasses shifted his eyes and smiled. "If you ask me, students are the best at singing." Then the doctor with silver-rimmed glasses looked refreshed and said, "Oh right, Lin Fan, aren't you a student? Why don't you go on stage and sing? Maybe you can get more than 90 points and win a 2,000 yuan voucher. In that case, we can have this meal for free." He thought he had just sung a beautiful song. As long as Lin Fan went up to sing, both their performances would definitely be able to form a stark contrast in Chen Xin's heart. The doctor with silver-rimmed glasses thought that his words and performance on stage earlier had planted a seed in Chen Xin's heart. If Lin Fan were to sing on stage, it would water and fertilize the seed, speeding up the seed's sprouting and growth. The tall and thin nurse followed up, saying, "That's right, Lin Fan, hurry up and go up on the stage to sing. It doesn't cost anything anyway." "This is a good opportunity," the round-faced doctor said. The doctor with silver-rimmed glasses saw that Lin Fan was sitting there without moving. Thus, he used the tone of an elder again and said, "Lin Fan, young people should go on stage more often. Don't be afraid and don't be shy. When I was the president of the student council at Jiangbei University, I often spoke on stage and slowly trained myself." When the doctor with silver-rimmed glasses said this, a hint of reminiscence appeared on his face. He looked as if he had returned to his university days. At this moment, Lin Fan said, "All right, I'll go up and sing." The doctor with silver-rimmed glasses acted like an elder. He placed his hands behind his back and nodded slightly. He sneered in his heart. A young man was indeed a young man. He was fooled by a few words. In reality, no matter how much he said, Lin Fan would not care. Lin Fan only agreed because he saw the look of anticipation on Chen Xin's pretty face. After hearing that Lin Fan had agreed to go on stage to sing, the tall and thin nurse, the round-faced doctor, and Zhang Jimin were all very happy. Chen Xin's beautiful eyes seemed to be flickering with light. Under everyone's anticipation, Lin Fan slowly walked onto the stage. Unlike the doctor with silver-rimmed glasses, he did not say a lot of nonsense after he went on stage. Instead, he picked up the microphone and said, "The song I'm going to sing is called Galaxy." "It's Galaxy, this is the most popular song recently," the tall and thin nurse said. "I really like this song," Zhang Jimin said. Chen Xin's pretty face was filled with anticipation. The doctor with silver-rimmed glasses sneered in his heart. He had to admit that Galaxy was really good and had been very popular recently. However, this song had a fast tempo and some parts of the song had a lot of ups and downs. That was what gave the song its unique charm. All in all, it was very difficult to sing. Moreover, this song was only released less than a month ago. This meant that Lin Fan did not have much time to learn this song. The doctor with silver-rimmed glasses could almost imagine how terrible Lin Fan's singing would be later, and how disappointed Chen Xin would be. As he thought of this, the doctor with silver-rimmed glasses could not help but smile. However, how would he know that this song was written by Lin Fan? Why would he need to learn how to sing it? Of course, even if he really needed to learn how to sing it, Lin Fan could do it easily. He would have no problems learning a song that was released a day ago, let alone a song that was less than a month old. One had to know Lin Fan had heavenly voice and photographic memory. At this moment, music started playing. Lin Fan opened his mouth as well. It was a clear, cloudless night, and a full moon hung in the sky. Her long clothes are dancing in the wind. She's as soft as feathers, as light as a swan, and as fair as jade. Silence. The entire restaurant fell silent. Originally, there were still many people eating, drinking, and chatting. At this moment, everyone suddenly stopped what they were doing and turned their attention to the stage. The tall and thin nurse, Zhang Jimin, the round-faced doctor, and the doctor with silver-rimmed glasses were all completely stunned. Chen Xin's beautiful eyes sparkled even brighter. She was completely immersed in Lin Fan's singing, unable to extricate herself. At this moment, in Chen Xin's eyes, Lin Fan was riding on a golden longsword and carrying her up into the heavens where they roamed the universe. Everything was so fascinating. In the end, I split apart the chaos and the universe with a single sword strike. The song ended. The music stopped. The entire restaurant was still very quiet. After a while, thunderous applause suddenly sounded. It sounded so good. It was so good. I used to be a fan of Ling Ru, now I'm a fan of this guy. Look at the score, heavens, 100 points. This is too amazing. Hey, sing another song. Please, handsome, sing another song. However, Lin Fan did not care and walked off the stage. I was so engrossed in listening that I forgot to take a video, a short girl said regretfully. I recorded it, I'll upload it to Weishi later, you can just watch it directly there, the tall boy beside her said. That's great, the short girl said in surprise, quickly upload it. The tall boy turned on his Weishi app, but he was soon stunned. That's strange, where's the video I took? In fact, it was not just the tall boy who was puzzled, many people in Rolling Restaurant had the same doubts. That was because all the videos they had taken had all disappeared. This was normal. One had to know that Lin Fan did not like to show his face. How could he let these videos leak out? Lil White, have you deleted all the videos? The watch on his wrist flashed slightly. When Lin Fan returned to his seat, Zhang Jimin was like a little fangirl, shouting excitedly, Lin Fan, your singing is so good. I've never heard anyone sing so well, the tall and thin nurse called out. Lin Fan, I didn't know you could sing so well, Chen Xin also said. Lin Fan smiled and said, Dr. Liu asked me to give it a try, so I went to sing a song. Who knew that I would get 100 points so easily? When the doctor with silver-rimmed glasses heard this, his face turned extremely ugly. Yes, he was the one who asked the kid to give it a try. However, he wanted to form a sharp contrast between Lin Fan and himself so that Chen Xin would be disappointed in Lin Fan. What was the situation now? It was the complete opposite. The doctor with silver-rimmed glasses felt like he had lifted a rock and smashed it in his own foot. It hurt. Yeah, the tall and thin nurse said, 100 points, does that mean we can get a 2,000 yuan coupon? At this moment the host walked over and said, Hello sir, your performance just now was graded 100 points, this is your prize. As he spoke, he handed over 10 200 yuan coupons. Lin Fan waved the vouchers in his hand and said, Looks like I'll be treating you guys to this meal. Lin Fan, what a coincidence, I actually met you here and even heard you sing such a nice song, a familiar voice sounded behind everyone. When Lin Fan heard it, he turned around. When he saw who it was, his face immediately revealed a touch of surprise. The man was none other than Feng Weijian, the vice-chancellor of Jiangbei University. I was just singing casually. Singing casually, just like how you solve difficult problems, Feng Weijian laughed. He was joking. However, he did not know that it was the truth. Lin Fan glanced at the silver-rimmed glasses doctor who had been standing at the side and said, "Dr. Liu, didn't you just say that Vice-Chancellor Feng often checks in on you? Now that he's here in person, you can talk to him face to face." Talk face to face, the doctor with silver-rimmed glasses was stunned. "Who is this?" Feng Weijian asked in confusion. "Oh, he's Dr. Liu from Jiangbei Central Hospital. He said that he used to be the student union president at Jiangbei University. When you were the director, he was very close to you. You often sent messages to check in on him even after he graduated. He was just about to mention me to you," Lin Fan said. Feng Weijian was a smart man. He could easily tell that Lin Fan had a conflict with this Dr. Liu. Who was Lin Fan? He was a mathematician and a great scientist who solved several global mathematical problems, invented the earthquake prediction device, and invented the super battery. Lin Fan was Jiangbei University's biggest treasure. It could be said that Jiangbei University could lose Feng Weijian, but they could never lose Lin Fan. If someone provoked Lin Fan, Feng Weijian naturally would not hold back. He glanced coldly at the doctor with silver-rimmed glasses and said, "Oh, I have a good relationship with you. May I know your name?" 332 Who's your counselor? Return. When the doctor with silver-rimmed glasses saw Feng Weijian for the first time, he felt a sense of familiarity. However, he did not associate Feng Weijian with the vice-chancellor of Jiangbei University. He did not even know Feng Weijian. Obviously, what the doctor with silver-rimmed glasses said about having a good relationship with the vice-chancellor was just a joke. In fact, the doctor with silver-rimmed glasses had only met Feng Weijian twice before. Not long ago, he accidentally learned that Feng Weijian had become the vice-chancellor. When he heard that Lin Fan was a student at Jiangbei University, the doctor with silver-rimmed glasses made up such a story in order to establish his superior status. The doctor with silver-rimmed glasses thought that the few people present could not verify his statement at all. However, he did not expect Feng Weijian to be in Rolling Restaurant. More importantly, Feng Weijian was actually very close to Lin Fan. Could it be such a coincidence? The doctor with silver-rimmed glasses opened his mouth but did not say anything. What? Feng Weijian frowned. "Do you think I'm not Feng Weijian, the vice-chancellor of Jiangbei University, and so you don't want to tell me your name?" As he spoke, Feng Weijian began to rummage through the briefcase in his hand. The doctor with silver-rimmed glasses quickly said, No, my name is Liu Yanghao." Even though he said his name, Feng Weijian still took out his work pass and slammed it on the table. There was a line of bold words that read, "Feng Weijian, Vice-Chancellor of Jiangbei University." Oh, Feng Weijian finally reacted. "Liu Yanghao, which batch are you from? Who was your counselor?" "I'm from the 11th batch and my counselor was Zhang Xianghong," said Liu Yanghao honestly. "A student of Xianghong," Feng Weijian nodded thoughtfully. He took out his phone and dialed a number, then pressed the speaker button. "Hello, Vice-Chancellor Feng, is there anything I can help you with?" A magnetic voice came from the phone. "Xianghong, I want to ask you something," Feng Weijian said. "Is there a student called Liu Yanghao from your 11th batch?" "Liu Yanghao? Oh, there is such a student," Zhang Xianghong said after thinking for a moment. "Was he the president of the student council before this?" Feng Weijian said. "No," Zhang Xianghong said straightforwardly. "You remember it so clearly," Feng Weijian said. "When you said his name, I only had a slight impression of him," Zhang Xianghong explained. "But after thinking about it, I remember that he used to be a discipline committee member of the class. In the end, he got into a fight with someone and was punished for it. How can he be the president of the student council after being punished?" "I see," Feng Weijian said. "I understand, Xianghong, thank you." "It's just a small matter, Vice-Chancellor Feng, you're too polite," said Zhang Xianghong. After hanging up the phone, Feng Weijian looked at Liu Yanghao indifferently. How could he not know that Liu Yanghao had been bragging all along? If it were under normal circumstances, he would not have bothered. However, Liu Yanghao had offended Lin Fan. In this case, he had to be more serious. First, Liu Yanghao met Feng Weijian, which exposed the lie that he was familiar with the vice-chancellor of Jiangbei University. Then Feng Weijian called his counselor in public and exposed the truth that he was never the president of the student council. The bullsh** *T that he had just bragged about in front of everyone was directly exposed in the blink of an eye. At this moment, Liu Yonghao's entire face was flushed red. He wished he could find a hole to hide in. The tall and thin nurse, the round-faced doctor, and Zhang Jimin wanted to laugh when they saw Feng Weijian's expression. At this moment, colorful dishes were served one after another. Although the ingredients were ordinary, the taste was not bad. In addition, from time to time, someone would go on stage and sing a song, though they sounded like a ghost's howls. Lin Fan, Chen Xin, the lanky nurse, Zhang Jimin, and the round-faced doctor were all eating happily. Only Liu Yonghao felt as if he was chewing wax and sitting on pins and needles. Every second felt like a year to him. After 2 hours of eating and chatting, the meal finally came to an end. Liu Yonghao quickly left Rolling Restaurant alone with the excuse that he had something to do at home. Initially, Chen Xin wanted to send Zhang Jimin and the tall and thin nurse home. However, they said that they did not want to be the third wheel. Hence, after leaving the restaurant, they called a taxi. Soon, Chen Xin and Lin Fan were the only two people in the cute and cozy Mini Cooper. Perhaps it was because of the confined space, both of them felt a little stuffy. "You still haven't told me when you were able to sing so well," Chen Xin finally spoke after a while. Speaking of singing, Chen Xin seemed to be unable to move on from his performance. She closed her eyes slowly and seemed to hear Lin Fan singing again. Lin Fan said probably last year. He was not spouting nonsense. This was because he had obtained the system last year and obtained Heavenly Voice, which was why he could sing so well. "Last year did you sign up for a training class?" Chen Xin asked. "That's not the case, I probably just suddenly became enlightened," Lin Fan said. After all, no one would believe him even if he told them about the system. Chen Xin and Lin Fan chatted while driving, occasionally laughing. She did not know why, but today, she was interested in everything about Lin Fan. Before long, the two of them arrived at a winding street. This was the path they had walked together yesterday. Yesterday, when the two of them walked together, it was more like a familiar feeling between friends who had not seen each other for many years. Today, they felt a different kind of closeness. The two of them walked side by side, slowly moving forward. At this moment, a dim yellow light lit up above Lin Fan's and Chen Xin's heads. Just like yesterday, their shadows continued to lengthen. Today, the shadows seemed to be even closer to each other. 1 step, 2 steps. 3 steps. The two of them kept moving forward, and their shadows kept getting closer and closer. They gradually intersected with each other. The empty streets, the intersecting figures. For some reason, Chen Xin suddenly recalled the scene when she sat at the same table as Lin Fan. The scene of them meeting yesterday, the scene of them eating hot pot, and the scene of Lin Fan singing today. These scenes were like a movie, rippling in Chen Xin's mind. The next moment, a crisp notification rang out in Lin Fan's mind. Ding, charming aura activated, triggered an unforgettable memory. Lin Fan was stunned. What was going on? Was he not just walking? Could this also trigger an unforgettable memory? Who was the target of this trigger? Chen Xin. Thinking of this, Lin Fan could not help but use his eyes of true sight to observe. Appearance 96. Favorability 95. It was indeed her. At this moment, Chen Xin suddenly stopped in her tracks. She stood on her tiptoes and walked toward Lin Fan. Warm and moist. The next morning, the man with messy hair carried his bag and walked on the straight sidewalk with his head lowered. On the one-way road ahead, a young man was wearing headphones. He was listening to music while dancing in the middle of the road. At this moment, a van came from behind. It seemed to be in a hurry and kept honking at the young man. However, it was unknown if it was because the young man's earphones were too good at noise cancellation or if he was used to walking in the middle of the road, but he did not have any intention of moving aside. This action quickly angered the van driver. He stepped on the accelerator and knocked the young man to the ground. Blood immediately gushed out of the young man's knee as he lay on the ground and wailed. "How dare you hit me, don't even think about leaving today." At this moment, two men with buzz cuts walked out of the van. "Don't even think about leaving," one of the men said coldly. "That's not up to you." As they spoke, the two men with buzz cuts dragged the young man and threw him to the side like trash. Then they turned around to return to the van. However, the young man was unwilling. First he was knocked down by them, then he was thrown aside like trash. How could he tolerate this? After he got up from the ground, he stood in the middle of the road, raised his neck and shouted, "Someone help, they hit someone, come and help me." The two men frowned slightly and were about to throw the young man aside again. At this moment, a bearded man walked out of the van. He stared at the young man with his extremely cold eyes. Then he strode toward the young man. The next moment, the bearded man suddenly pulled out a fruit knife and stabbed the young man fiercely. Fresh blood spurted out. The young man's face was filled with disbelief. He clutched his stomach and kept retreating. He shouted in fear, "Come someone, come help, murder." After a while, he arrived in front of the man with messy hair. These words did not scare the bearded man. On the contrary, they seemed to have aroused the bearded man's hostility. He strode toward the young man again, picked up the fruit knife, and was about to continue stabbing the young man. The man with messy hair looked at the young man and then at the bearded man, recalling the fact that he had cancer. He thought to himself, "Before I die, I should do some good deeds. Perhaps I can be reincarnated into a good family in my next life." At the thought of this, the man with messy hair gritted his teeth and quickly took out his brick-like mobile phone, slamming it fiercely at the bearded man's head. Bang! It was accurate. Ruthless. The phone shattered. The bearded man's head was also bleeding. He felt his vision blur and fell to the ground. "Boss, boss," the two men with buzz cuts shouted in shock. At this moment, the sound of a police car came from behind. Immediately after, the police car drove over. Seeing this, the two men with buzz cuts did not care about the bearded man anymore. They fled in all directions. However, the two officers blocked their way. In the coiling dragon villa, Lin Fan was lying on a large, soft bed. When the birds outside let out a burst of happy cries, he slowly opened his eyes. Then he picked up his phone out of habit. At this moment, as usual, a text message appeared on the screen. "Notice from Merchant Bank, 7,893,200 yuan was deposited into your account. Sign in." Ding, congratulations, you've received 1 million yuan. Lin Fan pursed his lips and said, "Another 10 million. This morning, all the students were very enthusiastic. There were still more than 10 minutes before class started, but all the seats had been taken. It was because this was Teacher Tianxin's class. Luckily, Song Yi, Ma Zhang, and Zheng Jinbao helped Lin Fan reserve a seat every day. That way, he could avoid the situation of coming all the way to school but not being able to find a seat. Every time Teacher Tianxin held a class, all the students would sigh at how time passed too quickly. However, time would never slow down or speed up because of personal wishes. The morning class ended very quickly. Lin Fan, Song Yi, and the others went to the cafeteria as usual. They queued up to buy the food they wanted to eat. Just as they sat down, Lin Fan's phone vibrated. 12:00 p.m. The red packets were here. Ding, congratulations, you've received 5 yuan. Ding, congratulations, you've received 111 yuan. Ding, congratulations, you've received 1,000 yuan. Ding, congratulations, you've received 9,999 yuan. Lin Fan clicked on the red packet a few times and received a total of 43,291 yuan. He did not care about it at all and put his phone back into his pocket. After lunch, Lin Fan went back to his dorm and lay down on his bed. Although the bed in the dormitory was not as wide and soft as the one in the coiling dragon villa, as he lay on it, he recalled the lessons, meals, and sleep he had with his classmates today. It made Lin Fan feel content from the bottom of his heart, and a faint smile appeared on his face. At this moment, Song Yi, who was also lying on his bed, suddenly shouted, "Bro, you did a good job." Ma Zhang, who was reading quietly, popped his head out with a curious expression. Zheng Jinbao turned his head and asked, "What happened?" Song Yi waved his hand and said, "This happened just today, it's already on the news, I'll send it to the group for you to see." Lin Fan's phone vibrated slightly. Soon, a news video played. This morning, a criminal committed a crime on the street. Fortunately, a warm-hearted citizen passed by and saved the victim. Let's see what happened. Then a man with messy hair appeared on the screen. "When the criminal took out a fruit knife to commit murder, weren't you afraid?" asked the reporter. "I was scared," the man with messy hair said. "Then why did you bravely stand up and directly knock down the criminal? Could it be that you know the injured citizen?" the reporter said. The man shook his head and said, "I don't know him." "Is it because of your sense of justice then?" the reporter said. The man with messy hair pondered for a moment. After a while, he mustered up his courage and said, "Actually, I'm a cancer patient. I just want to do more good things before my life ends." The reporter's expression changed drastically. He said in surprise, "Originally, I thought you were just a warrior with a strong sense of justice. I didn't expect you to be a fighter who's fighting against illness. Please allow me to pay my highest respect to you." After saying that, the reporter bowed deeply to the man. After seeing the news, Lin Fan was slightly stunned. He had a photographic memory, so he naturally remembered that the man with messy hair had fainted on the ground the day before yesterday, and he had treated him with medical water. After drinking the medical water, his cancer should have been cured right. From the looks of it, he did not see. For the next 2 days, Lin Fan went to and from school like any other student. He was relaxed. Today, Lin Fan had just arrived at the classroom when Song Yi suddenly shouted excitedly, "F***CK, this is awesome." "What happened?" Ma Zhang asked curiously. "Didn't I post a video in the group 2 days ago? It's that cancer fighter who saw injustice on the road. He received a prize of 500,000, Song Yi shouted. Ma Zhang's eyes widened as he shouted, 500,000. After saying that, he could not help but swallow his saliva. He seemed to have seen stacks of red bills. "In my opinion, such a warrior should be rewarded," Song Yi said. Lin Fan's phone vibrated slightly. It turned out that Song Yi had posted another news video. The host said, "After our city's Linchin company learned of the deeds of the cancer fighter, they were extremely touched. Therefore, they have decided to take responsibility for all his subsequent treatment costs. At the same time, they'll reward him with 500,000 yuan. Now let's invite the cancer fighter to come on stage and give a speech." Immediately after, the man with messy hair appeared on the screen. "First of all, I'm very grateful to Linchin Company for their help. I see that many people on the internet are treating me as a hero, but I want to say that I only did what I should do." The man's words were very organized and touched many people. When he finished speaking, the venue immediately erupted into warm applause. Seeing this, Lin Fan's face turned weird. Cancer fighter treatment fees reward. Could it be that this man with messy hair wanted to become famous? Initially, Lin Fan was wondering if he should let Xiao Bai tell the man that his cancer was cured. Now it seemed that there was no need for this. The day's classes came to an end after the bell rang. In the restaurant, the aroma assailed one's nostrils and the voices of people boomed. Lin Fan sat at the side and ate the delicacies. His face was filled with enjoyment. Yesterday, when Lin Fan drove past, he was attracted by the aroma here. After tasting the food, he could not stop praising it. Therefore, he rushed over after school today. Just as Lin Fan was about to leave after eating his fill, a familiar figure entered his sight. It was Wang Ru, the beauty Lin Fan met when he was robbed. Wang Ru also saw Lin Fan. At this time, the bald man sitting at the table next to Wang Ru finished eating and walked out. Wang Ru's eyes moved slightly. She walked to Lin Fan and said, "Why are you here? Everyone has been waiting for you for a long time." As she spoke, she pulled Lin Fan's arm and walked out. Lin Fan thought for a moment and knew that Wang Ru was handling a case again. Just as Lin Fan expected, when they arrived at the Mercedes-Benz, Wang Ru said, "Quickly follow the Volkswagen in front. If possible, try not to be discovered." Originally, Wang Ru planned to follow the man. However, Wang Ru had been following him for a long time. If she continued to follow him, she would be easily discovered by the other party. Secondly, Wang Ru knew that Lin Fan had excellent driving skills. She asked Lin Fan for help so that she would not lose him easily. Lin Fan did not reject Wang Ru's request. This world was safe and stable because of these serious and responsible investigations. Moreover, Lin Fan had a good impression of Wang Ru. Boom! Lin Fan stepped on the accelerator and sped forward, following behind the Volkswagen steadily. When they drove past a fork in the road, Lin Fan suddenly turned the steering wheel. "You seem to have gone the wrong way," said Wang Ru. "Don't worry, we'll be fine after we pass the road in front," Lin Fan smiled. Just as Lin Fan had said, after making out of that stretch of road, the Volkswagen appeared in front of them again. Similar things happened several times in a row. It was also because of these actions that the Volkswagen did not notice the Mercedes-Benz G-Class following behind it. Seeing this, Wang Ru could not help but look at Lin Fan in shock. "You actually remember all the routes in this area?" Wang Ru could not help but ask. Lin Fan said, "It's simple." It was simple for Lin Fan. When he was bored, he would casually look at the electronic map and remember all the routes clearly. One had to know. Even if it was a book with a few hundred pages, Lin Fan could easily recite it backward. What more, a map the size of a page? After all, Lin Fan was someone with a photographic memory and scanning abilities. However, Wang Ru did not feel good hearing this. As an investigator, she knew very well that it was very important to be familiar with the streets of the city. This was because it could be of great help in arresting criminals. For this reason, Wang Ru spent a lot of time memorizing the streets. However, the effect was not ideal. Lin Fan smiled and said, "Why do I feel like every time I see you, you're chasing after someone? Are you so busy investigating?" "Ever since you were robbed with a knife that day, we've become busier," Wang Ru said. Lin Fan was stunned. Then he suddenly remembered that Deng Jihu, the captain of the Jiangbei City investigation team, had said that he would crack down on crime. Was it still going on? "I'll go back and talk to Captain Deng Jihu." Wang Ru waved her hand and said, "Don't, I think that this is quite good. I can continuously bring those hidden bad guys to justice." "Just like today," she said after a pause. "If it weren't for the strict enforcement during this period of time, I'm afraid it would have been very difficult for us to know that there's actually a gang of organ smugglers in Jiangbei." "Is it that Volkswagen car in front?" Lin Fan asked. "Yes," said Wang Ru. "I don't know how many people they've harmed. I hope that I can find their nest today." As she said this, she could not help but clench her fists. The Mercedes-Benz G-Class followed behind, driving through a bumpy path and a rugged mountain road. Finally, a dilapidated factory appeared in front of them. The Volkswagen was parked there. After the bald man got out of the car, he looked around before entering the factory. Wang Ru pondered for a moment and said, "You wait here for a while. I want to go in and see if this is the base camp of those forces." Lin Fan said, "I'll go with you." "No, it's very dangerous inside," Wang Ru directly denied it. Lin Fan smiled. "Do you think I'll be in danger? Besides, do you know how many people are inside? I might be able to help if I go in." "Help!" At this moment, a shrill cry suddenly sounded from inside. Wang Ru could not care less and quickly said, "You have to be careful later. If you encounter danger, don't hesitate and leave quickly." "All right," said Lin Fan. Wang Ru took out her cell phone and quickly sent 2 messages to her colleagues. Then she walked toward the old factory. The scream just now made her realize that someone inside was in danger. However, Wang Ru did not rush inside. She had always been very careful and cautious. It was because she understood one thing. Saving people was important, but if she were to rush in without knowing the enemy, not only could she not save people, but she would also be bringing harm to the other party. At the same time, she would be harming herself. After Wang Ru and Lin Fan walked into the dilapidated factory, they slowly walked forward with the help of the weak light. At this moment, a stern shout sounded from afar. "Stop screaming. Let me tell you, this is an abandoned factory and the surroundings are all wasteland. Even if you scream until your throat breaks, no one can save you." "Damn it, you want to run after taking my money? No one has ever dared to be so bold." You're the first, you sure have guts. Following that, there was a round of applause. Then there was pleading. I'm sorry, I beg you, don't hit me anymore. I beg you, please spare me. Eh? When Lin Fan heard this voice, he did not know why, but he felt that it was somewhat familiar. The next moment, a group of fiendish figures and a person who was tied up appeared in Lin Fan's and Wang Ru's sight. Looking at the person who had been tied up, Lin Fan's face revealed a strange expression. This person was actually the cancer fighter whom he had met. Did he not receive a 500,000 yuan prize? How did he get caught by a force suspected of organ smuggling? I wasn't trying to escape, I really wasn't trying to escape, the man with messy hair wailed. Can I return the money to you? Return it to me, Brother Zhang raised his eyebrows and said. Yes, I don't want to give up my cornea anymore. I was misdiagnosed. I don't have cancer, so I don't want to give up my cornea anymore, the man with messy hair said. You don't want to? You're not doing it anymore just because you don't want to. Do you think I'm a monkey? Do you think you can play with me so casually? Brother Zhang shouted. Then he raised his hand again and slapped the man's face. Another loud slap echoed in the dilapidated factory. Hearing this, Lin Fan finally understood what had happened. The man with messy hair found out that he had cancer, so he went to look for this organization to exchange his organs for some money. In the end, he fainted because of his illness and drank the medical water Lin Fan gave him, which cured his cancer. Hence, he did not want to give up his cornea anymore. What a coincidence. Was he lucky or unlucky? Brother Zhang asked coldly, You don't have cancer, that's great, I'll take all your organs out. Beside him, a group of fiendish men put on their gloves and picked up their cold scalpels. They slowly walked toward the man with messy hair. The man with messy hair was so scared that his face turned pale. He shouted, No, don't! I'll give you money, I have 500,000 yuan, I'll give it all to you. I still have a house, I'll give it to you too, I'll give it all to you. 500,000, Brother Zhang sneered. A house, who do you think I am? I'm here for organs, not robbery or extortion. He was quite professional. The group of fiendish men continued to gather around the man with messy hair. Seeing this, Wang Ru was anxious. She did not want an innocent person to die in front of her. She was so anxious that she accidentally stepped on the can beside her. Brother Zhang's expression turned cold. He suddenly turned around and shouted, Who is it? The fierce men also looked in Wang Ru's direction. Brother Zhang raised his hand and gestured for the round-faced man beside him to go over and take a look. The round-faced man nodded and carefully walked forward with a scalpel in his hand. Wang Ru knew that she could not hide anymore. Hence she whispered to Lin Fan, You go out first. Then Wang Ru took the opportunity to attack. Bang! She kicked the knife in the round-faced man's hand away, then subdued him on the ground and handcuffed his hands. Then she shouted, Police, don't move. The expressions of Brother Zhang and the other fiendish men changed slightly. However, they were not afraid, nor did they listen to orders. Two men ran to the window and looked outside with binoculars. Big Brother Zhang, there's only one car outside. Brother Zhang said coldly, We can just catch her, that way we'll have another complete set of organs. Yes, boss. The men rushed toward Wang Ru with knives in their hands. Stab! 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 They all attacked Wang Ru. While Wang Ru was dodging, she also punched and kicked from time to time, knocking down one man after another. Wang Ru's personal combat strength was indeed good. However, it was difficult for her to fight against two people. Moreover, the two men were each holding a sharp knife. Gradually, Wang Ru began to show signs of decline. A man seized the opportunity and stabbed at Wang Ru. At this moment, a black shadow jumped out and kicked the man away. It was Lin Fan. With Lin Fan joining in, the situation started to change. Soon, one man after another fell to the ground. In the distance, Brother Zhang narrowed his eyes slightly. He knew that he could not delay any longer. He had to finish them off quickly. Brother Zhang quietly took out a black pistol from the drawer behind him and pulled the trigger at Wang Ru, who had no cover. Bang! A bullet shot out. Lin Fan reacted quickly and pushed Wang Ru to the ground. In TV shows, this kind of situation should mean that the protagonist had already dodged the bullet. In reality, how could a person's speed be faster than a bullet? Even if Lin Fan had the ability to take on 100 people at once, it would not do. Just as Lin Fan arrived in front of Wang Ru, the bullet was already fired. At this moment, an invisible shield appeared around Lin Fan, blocking the bullet. It was the energy shield that Lin Fan had obtained before. Seeing this, Lin Fan could not help but heave a sigh of relief. Then he stood up and attacked continuously. In the shortest time possible, he knocked all the men in front of him to the ground. Then like a cheetah, he rushed toward Brother Zhang. Brother Zhang's expression changed drastically. He picked up his pistol again and kept pulling the trigger. Lin Fan dodged left and right. A portion of the bullets were successfully dodged. A portion of the bullets were successfully blocked by the energy shield. Soon, Lin Fan arrived in front of Brother Zhang and kicked him. Bang! He did not hold back at all. The kick directly sent Brother Zhang flying 2 meters away. His teeth were mixed with blood and they kept pouring out of his mouth. He never got up again. 336 I have a boyfriend. At this point, everyone in the organization had lost their ability to fight. The entire abandoned factory became extremely quiet. Lin Fan turned to Wang Ru and said, "Are you okay?" "I'm fine, what about you, are you hurt?" Wang Ru was extremely worried. She had seen it very clearly. Brother Zhang had fired several shots at Lin Fan. Reality was not like TV shows. Bullets were definitely not that easy to dodge. If one was the slightest bit careless, it could be extremely dangerous. Lin Fan said, "I'm not injured." However, Wang Ru did not just listen to what Lin Fan said. She looked at Lin Fan from head to toe. When she saw that he really was not injured, she heaved a sigh of relief. At this moment, the sound of a police car came from outside. "Your colleagues seem to be here," Lin Fan said. Wang Ru nodded. As they spoke, the two of them walked out. The man with messy hair who had been beaten up like a pig could not help but say, "Oh officer, can you untie the ropes around me first?" When Lin Fan heard this, he casually threw the scalpel that he had snatched from the fight earlier. A cold light flashed past, and the ropes on the man's body snapped. Skill 100% hidden weapon. Hiss. Previously, when Brother Zhang kept beating up the man with messy hair, he did not pee his pants. At this moment, his legs went soft and there was a warm patch on his pants. He peed. Lin Fan's move was just too sudden and terrifying. As soon as Lin Fan and Wang Ru walked out of the dilapidated factory, a large group of police officers ran over. One of them asked Wang Ru, "What's the situation?" "The people from the organization have all been subdued. In addition, there's also a victim," Wang Ru said. "All subdued?" The officers were stunned. They thought to themselves, perhaps there are very few of them. The officers nodded and ran inside quickly. Not long after, the officers brought out a large group of injured men and slowly walked over. How did they capture so many criminals? The officers were filled with doubts. However, they also understood that now was not the time to ask these questions, so they took all these men into the police car. Wang Ru looked at the fully occupied police car and asked, "Lin Fan, can you send me to the station?" "No problem," Lin Fan said. Boom. After returning to the Mercedes-Benz, Lin Fan stepped on the accelerator and continued to drive along the road they came from. When they arrived, the atmosphere in the car was extremely tense. At this moment, it was very relaxed. Wang Ru looked at the dim lights on both sides of the road and the rustling green plants. It was quiet and peaceful. Not long after, a stately building appeared in front of them. It was the police station. Lin Fan said, "I won't go in to make a statement, see you next time." If someone else had made such a request, Wang Ru would definitely refuse. However, Lin Fan was different, he had the power to do so. "Alright, see you next time," Wang Ru said. Then Lin Fan stepped on the accelerator again and returned to the coiling dragon villa. He first sat on the soft sofa and drank a mouthful of fragrant spirit tea while playing with his phone. He was extremely relaxed and satisfied. After washing up, he lay down on the spacious bed and enjoyed himself. While Lin Fan was enjoying himself, Wang Ru finished giving her statement and returned home. She stood on the balcony and looked at the night scene in the distance. She allowed the breeze to caress her face. She could not help but recall the serious expression on Lin Fan's face when he was driving, the brave figure of Lin Fan when he knocked down the criminals, and the scene of Lin Fan pushing her to the ground to protect her. At this moment Wang Ru thought of something, and her face suddenly turned red. Today Chen Xin welcomed a rare rest day. When she came to the living room with sleepy eyes, her mother, Li Rong, happened to bring out noodles and steamed dumplings. His father, Chen Dayang, was sitting on the sofa reading a magazine. The family sat together eating breakfast and chatting about their daily lives. It was very warm. At this moment her mother, Li Rong, suddenly sighed and said, "In the blink of an eye, our Xin Xin has already started working and become an adult. After a while she might get married." "Mom," Chen Xin said in embarrassment. Li Rong continued, "Don't be shy, you're also at the age of dating now." Chen Dayang said, "When you're in a relationship you have to open your eyes wide. By the way, the son of the chairman of Daddy Company, which has a good relationship with our company, is quite good. Do you want me to get his contact information?" When Chen Xin heard this, she finally understood why her parents were suddenly talking about love and marriage. Were they going to introduce her to a partner? "Dad, Mom, actually I already have a boyfriend." As she said this, she could not help but recall eating hot pot with Lin Fan, listening to Lin Fan sing, shopping with him, hugging him, and thinking of this scene, Chen Xin's pretty face could not help but reveal a sweet smile. "What, you have a boyfriend?" Li Rong was stunned for a moment. Chen Dayang was also stunned. Obviously, he did not expect his daughter to have a boyfriend. After a while Li Rong asked, "Who is it? Is it a doctor from your hospital?" He, Chen Xin, said, "He's my high school classmate, you've met him before." "Have we met before?" Li Rong and Chen Dayang looked at each other. Li Rong said, "Could it be Xing Peng? He seems not bad." Chen Xin said, "No, he's a high school classmate from Jiang province. His name is Lin Fan, he was my deskmate in year 1. "Lin Fan?" Chen Dayang pondered for a while and said, "I seem to remember him a little. He's tall and his grades seem to be quite good." When Chen Xin heard her father praise Lin Fan, she was even happier than when she heard him praise her. "Yes, it's him," said Tianchen. "When did you and Lin Fan get together?" Li Rong asked. "Not long ago," Chen Xin said shyly. Li Rong said, "Child, why didn't you tell me that you were in a relationship?" "Oh right, is Lin Fan working in Jiangbei now?" "He's studying at Jiangbei University," Chen Xin said honestly. "Not bad, Jiangbei University is a top university." Chen Dayang nodded his head and said, "I'm meeting the president of the Jiangbei branch of Tianchen Bank for a meal today. Xin Xin, why don't you call Lin Fan out for a meal so that I can meet him?" Chen Xin hesitated, "You want to eat together?" "What, you don't want us to see him?" Chen Dayang laughed. "I'll ask him if he has any classes first," Chen Xin said. The surrounding waiters greeted the man respectfully. "Hello, General Manager." The person who came was the General Manager of the Imperial Hotel, Wang Fengyi. Wang Fengyi was not someone who liked to put on airs. In the past, he would return the greeting one by one. However, at this moment, he did not stop and quickened his pace toward the front desk. It was because Wang Fengyi had seen Lin Fan. Lin Fan also noticed Wang Fengyi. He shifted his eyes and said, "I heard that guests can win a chance to use the VIP room for free at the Imperial Hotel. Is that true?" Wang Fengyi was about to greet Lin Fan, but after hearing his words he glanced at Chen Xin and the others. After thinking about it, he had some guesses. He cleared his throat and said, "Of course, our Imperial Hotel's lucky draw is real. May I ask if you want to participate?" As Wang Fengyi spoke, he took out his phone and opened a QR code. Lin Fan took out his phone and scanned the QR code. Beep. With a soft sound, the QR code was successfully scanned. "Go and get the lucky draw box from our hotel," Wang Fengyi said to the front desk staff. The receptionist was a little confused. She had no idea when the Imperial Hotel had a lucky draw to use the VIP room, let alone where the lucky draw box was. "It's the lottery box that you used last night," Wang Fengyi frowned. Ah, all right, the receptionist was completely dumbfounded. She naturally knew about the lucky draw box that she had used yesterday. However, was that not the employee's lucky draw? Although the receptionist was full of doubts, she still walked toward the staff break room. 338 winning the prize, unable to get a loan. While chatting and waiting, the receptionist carried a lucky draw box and walked over nervously. She did not know if this was the lucky draw box that the general manager was referring to. At this moment, Wang Fengyi waved his hand and said, "Finally." When the receptionist heard this, she heaved a sigh of relief. It seemed that she had not taken the wrong one. Wang Fengyi first put his hand into the lottery box and stirred it. Then he said to Lin Fan, "Please draw." Lin Fan nodded and took out a lottery ticket. Wang Fengyi slowly opened the lottery ticket and looked at Lin Fan in disbelief. "Grand prize, congratulations, you've received a 100,000 yuan voucher. You can also use our VIP room for free." "Excuse me, do you wish to use it now?" Lin Fan did not reply and turned to look at Chen Dayoung. Chen Dayoung felt a little dizzy from suddenly winning the big prize. After a while he said, "We'll use it now." Thus, under Wang Fengyi's personal lead, the group arrived at the VIP room on the 66th floor. Soft wool carpet, diamond-shaped lights, mahogany furniture, everything reflected the luxury of the private room. Chen Xin smiled and said, "Last time I had a free meal with Lin Fan at Rolling Restaurant. Today I can have another free meal. I want to steal some of this good fortune too." As Chen Xin spoke, she moved closer to Lin Fan and took a few deep breaths. Lin Fan wanted to laugh. Chen Dayoung opened his mouth and was about to say something when the phone in his pocket rang. He looked at the caller ID and said with a serious expression, "Hello, President Yuan. You're here. Okay, I'll come and pick you up now." After hanging up the phone, Chen Dayoung quickly walked out. After President Yuan looked at the decoration in the private room, he could not help but raise his eyes and say, "The VIP room, not bad." Obviously, he had seen a little of the world. "Of course I have to treat you to a meal at the best place," Chen Dayoung said. President Yuan nodded in satisfaction. Then the two of them began to chat. However, from the beginning to the end, President Yuan maintained a high and mighty attitude. At this moment, delicately designed and fragrant dishes were slowly served by the waiter. Chen Dayoung opened a bottle of flying Maotai and poured the clear liquor into a glass. Then he stood up and raised his glass. "President Yuan, thank you very much for gracing me with your presence today. I'll toast you with this glass of liquor." As soon as he finished speaking, he drank the liquor in his glass in one gulp. President Yuan raised his hand and said, sit down, what's the point of standing and drinking?" Yes, President Yuan is right," Chen Dayoung said awkwardly and slowly sat down. Then the two of them started chatting again. About 20 minutes later, Chen Dayoung saw that it was about time and finally said, "President Yuan, regarding the loan of our Huanhai company, I wonder what's the current status of our application. When will I be able to get the money?" As soon as he said this, the originally lively atmosphere immediately became much colder. President Yuan first put the top-grade Wagyu beef into his mouth and drank a mouthful of flying Maotai. Then he said with a stern expression, "Is this why you invited me to the VIP room of the Imperial Hotel, HMPH? It would have been fine if you hadn't mentioned it, but since you did mention it, then so be it. Let me tell you clearly. With the things you've provided, are you still thinking of borrowing 50 million? You shouldn't even think about borrowing 50 cents. After saying that, President Yuan slammed a stack of documents on the table. When Chen Dayoung saw this, his expression changed drastically. "No loan at all. How is this possible?" Obviously, this was something he had not expected. "President Yuan, didn't you say that the loan would be approved soon?" Chen Dayoung asked anxiously. "Why can't I get a loan now?" In fact, this was also one of the reasons why Chen Dayoung had asked Lin Fan to come along today. It was so that he could broaden his horizons. In Chen Dayoung's opinion, today's banquet would only be about how big of a loan they could get. He did not expect that they would not be able to get a loan. First, they did not have any problems with the procedure. Secondly, President Yuan made many promises. That's because I was deceived by you, President Yuan said coldly. If you think you can get a loan, then take the documents and go to another bank. After saying that, he got up and prepared to walk out. Find another bank to take out a loan. Although there was indeed no problem with the documents, the loan this time was for 50 million yuan, not 50,000 yuan. Capital verification, going through the process, getting the money, all of this would take a long time. Huanhai Company did not have the time to wait. At this moment, there was a knock on the door. However, no one walked in immediately. Wang Fengyi, who was holding a plate of delicious food, was stopped by the chairman of Tianjin Bank, Huang Jie, who was behind him. He patted Wang Fengyi's shoulder and said, "Manager Wang, haha, you're here. How about we have a few drinks in my private room?" The two of them were familiar with each other, so they talked very casually. Wang Fengyi said, "I'm afraid I'm not free now. Next time, I'll arrange it. Let's have a few drinks together. After all, Boss Lin Fan was here today. Wine could be drunk at any time." However, it was not every day that he had the chance to serve his boss. Huang Jie was a very smart person. He immediately began to guess who was in this room. Even Wang Fengyi had to personally entertain them. Huang Jie was curious. He wanted to look inside through the gap in the door. At this moment, the door of the private room opened. President Yuan walked out with a face full of arrogance. However, in the next moment he was stunned. It was because the chairman of Tianjin Bank, Huang Jie, had appeared at the door. The arrogance on President Yuan's face instantly disappeared without a trace. It was replaced by a humble and fawning expression. "Hello, Chairman Huang." Huang Jie still had some impression of President Yuan. He was just the president of a small branch in Jiangbei City. Why would he appear in the VIP room that Wang Fengyi had to personally entertain? Huang Jie was slightly confused and was about to nod to greet him. In the next moment, his pupils constricted. "Lin Fan." He saw Lin Fan in the room. In fact, Huang Jie had come to Jiangbei because of a meeting that Tianjin Bank was participating in. The most important reason was that he wanted to meet Lin Fan and get closer to him. However, when he was on the phone with Lin Fan this morning, Huang Jie seemed to hear that Lin Fan was a little impatient. Therefore, he did not dare to say anything. Unexpectedly, he bumped into Lin Fan in the hotel. Therefore, Huang Jie ignored President Yuan. He bowed and said respectfully. As Huang Jie's voice rang out, everyone present had different thoughts. President Yuan was full of doubts. "Mr. Lin, what Mr. Lin?" Chairman Huang actually had to be so respectful. However, there did not seem to be anyone with the surname Lin here. Wang Fengyi revealed a thoughtful look. Chen Xin and Li Rong looked at Lin Fan in confusion. Someone surnamed Lin. Was Chairman Huang greeting Lin Fan? Chen Daiyang did not pay much attention to it. He quickly ran to President Yuan and said, "President Yuan, there's nothing wrong with our documents. Please take a closer look and approve the loan for us." If it were in the past, Chen Daiyang would definitely notice that President Yuan was treating Huang Jie respectfully, and Huang Jie was greeting Mr. Lin respectfully. However, at this moment, he only wanted to get the loan and had no other concerns. If he could not get the loan, then the company that he had worked so hard for would completely disappear. Lin Fan rubbed his nose and took a few steps forward. "Leave it to me, Mr. Chen." As he spoke, he took the documents from Chen Daiyang's hands. Then he said to Huang Jie, "Mr. Huang, these are the loan documents for my girlfriend's father. He wants to borrow 50 million yuan, see if there's any problem. Sit down and take your time." Huang Jie did not dare to hesitate. He quickly took the materials and carefully flipped through them. Lin Fan was a major shareholder of Tianjin Bank. Even if he wanted to borrow 500 million, 50 billion, 50 billion, there was absolutely no problem. However, since Lin Fan had asked him to look, Huang Jie chose to go through the documents obediently. He looked through them very carefully, as he was worried that Lin Fan would raise some questions. There was only the soft sound of pages flipping in the entire room. The sound of the pages flipping seemed to bring a breeze, gradually bringing a cool breeze to the extremely anxious Chen Daiyang. The sound of the pages turning made President Yuan extremely hot and sweaty. Half an hour later, Huang Jieyi finally stopped flipping through the documents. Lin Fan asked, "How is it? Can the loan be approved?" Huang Jieyi replied, "There's no problem at all. In fact, with these things as collateral, he should be able to borrow nearly 60 million yuan. Lin Fan smiled. "Really? Then why did President Yuan of the Jiangbei City branch of Tianjin Bank say that he couldn't even get a loan of 50 cents? After dragging things out with Lin Fan's girlfriend's father for so long, he even said that he could not even borrow 50 cents. This was simply, he was a bastard. Yuan Jian explained this to me." Huang Jieyi's face sank as he shouted. A thin layer of sweat instantly appeared on Yuan Jian's forehead. He stuttered, this, maybe the examiner made a mistake." "Oh, then tell me which examiner did it," Huang Jieyi said coldly. "Yes, it was Yu Zhenbo," Yuan Jian said. "All right." Huang Jieyi took out his phone and made a call. "This is Huang Jieyi. Please transfer my call to Yu Zhenbo, the examiner of the Jiangbei Datung Street branch." "Yu Zhenbo, let me ask you, did you review the loan documents for case AAL 88? It's regarding Huanhai Company." "You didn't? Okay, I understand." "Yuan Jian, is this what you meant by saying that Yu Zhenbo was the examiner?" Huang Jieyi shouted. The sweat on Yuan Jian's forehead became denser, and his entire body began to tremble. In fact, ever since he received the loan documents from Huanhai Company, he had locked them in a drawer and only took them out today. The examiner did not even know that there was such a thing, so how could the documents have been reviewed? How could Yuan Jian have thought that Huang Jieyi would personally ask about it one day? I. He thought for a long time, but he did not say anything. "Say no more," Huang Jieyi shouted. "Yuan Jian, from now on you're no longer the branch manager of our Tianjin Bank. In addition, I'll get someone to thoroughly investigate all your accounts over the years. If there are any problems, I'll directly hand them over for investigation." Blub. In an instant, Yuan Jian seemed to have been drained of all his strength. His entire body fell to the ground weakly and he was unable to stand upright. One had to know. He had spent half his life working hard to become the president of the Jiangbei branch of Tianjin Bank. In the end, it was gone now. Moreover, they would thoroughly investigate all his accounts. Over the years, he had taken many benefits from others in private. If all these were found out, the consequences. Thinking of this, Yuan Jian's entire face turned pale. He lay on the ground and begged, "Mr. Huang, I beg you, don't remove my position as the president." However, Huang Jieyi was completely indifferent to this and did not pay any attention to it. Then, Yuan Jian seemed to have thought of something. He turned around and said to Lin Fan, "Mr. Lin, I'm sorry, it's my fault. I was blinded by greed, please let me go, please." Would begging solve the issue? How is this possible? Lin Fan frowned and said, "Mr. Wang, it seems a little noisy here." Yes, Wang Fengyi hurriedly said, "I'll get rid of him now." Soon, 2 security guards rushed over and carried Yuan Jian out without a word. The entire private room returned to silence. "Mr. Huang, when will Uncle Chen get the loan for Huanhai Company?" Lin Fan asked. "It'll definitely be approved before I get off work today," Huang Jieyi promised. "If Mr. Chen is in a hurry, I'll go to the bank now. I'll definitely get the money in an hour." Chen Dayang's heart skipped a beat. "There's no need to trouble yourself," he said. "It just needs to arrive before work ends today." "Right, is 50 million yuan enough?" Huang Jieyi asked again. "If you need more, I can lend more to you." The bank had always given less money to companies when they sought loans from the bank. When had the bank ever asked if the loan amount was enough? This man even wanted to lend some out privately. "It's enough, 50 million is enough." Then Huang Jieyi chatted for a while more before saying respectfully, "Then I won't disturb you anymore. Mr. Lin and distinguished guests, please enjoy your meal and drinks." Then Huang Jieyi walked out. Instantly, Chen Dayang, Chen Xin, and Li Rong turned their gazes to Lin Fan. Lin Fan could see a lot of questions on their faces, so he took the initiative to say, "Huang Jieyi is the chairman of Tianjin Bank." The chairman of Tianjin Bank, Chen Dayang swallowed hard. In fact, when he saw Yuan Jian bowing down to Huang Jieyi, he had some guesses. However, after getting Lin Fan's confirmation, he still could not help but be shocked. 340 Constitution Enhancement, Biology Department asks for help. The chairman of Tianjin Bank was so respectful to Lin Fan. Who was Lin Fan? Then Chen Dayoung could not help but say. Obviously, Lin Fan had already seen through Chen Dayoung's confusion. He said, "I'm the biggest shareholder of Tianjin Bank." Silence. The entire private room was silent. Tianjin Bank was the largest private bank in Hua Nation with a market value of more than hundreds of billions. Lin Fan was the biggest shareholder in the bank. How much was he worth? Billions. Tens of billions. Hundreds of billions. If Lin Fan had said from the start that he was the biggest shareholder of Tianjin Bank, then not only would Chen Dayoung and the others not believe him, but they would even think that he was a person who liked to brag. However, everything that had just happened proved that this was the truth. After a while, Chen Xin said, "No wonder. I always felt that the general manager of the Imperial Hotel seemed to take good care of us. He should know that you're the biggest shareholder of Tianjin Bank, right?" Lin Fan coughed lightly and said, "Actually, I'm the owner of the Imperial Hotel." Silence. The entire private room fell silent again. The weather today was a little gloomy. After a long while, Lin Fan finally opened his eyes. Notice from Merchant Bank, 76,870,920 yuan was deposited into your account. Then Lin Fan turned his attention to the sign-in system. Let's see what I can get today. Sign in. Ding, congratulations, you've received a Constitution Enhancement Potion. Lin Fan's expression changed slightly, and he focused his attention on the potion. Constitution Enhancement Potion, a magical potion that can double the strength, speed, toughness, immunity, and other physical attributes of the human body after using it. Having a strong body could increase one's charm. Seeing this, Lin Fan's eyes lit up immediately. Many people exercise to increase their strength or to increase their immunity. Now, as long as he drank a bottle of potion, he could easily do what others could only do after working hard for a few years or even decades. This was definitely a very good thing. When Lin Fan raised his head, there was a bottle of transparent liquid the size of a pinky on the bedside table. It was the Constitution Enhancement Potion that he had just obtained. Lin Fan quickly got out of bed and washed up, then he poured the potion into his mouth. Gulp. As the potion entered his stomach, it was like a warm current flowing through his heart. Then Lin Fan felt his entire body filled with energy. He glanced at the mahogany table beside him and raised his hand. Whoosh! The mahogany table was picked up. One had to know. This mahogany table was made of solid wood. It would probably take 2 adults to lift it. At this moment, it was like a piece of paper in Lin Fan's hands. It was extremely easy. In fact, this was quite normal. When Lin Fan obtained violent aesthetics, his body had already changed. His strength was far beyond what normal people could compare to. Now that he had taken the Constitution Enhancement Potion, his strength had doubled. Naturally, it was extraordinary. Jiangbei University, the teacher's office. Hu Tian sat at her desk and carefully flipped through the academic materials. At this moment, there was a light knock on the door. "Please come in," Hu Tian said. Then a round-faced woman wearing black-rimmed glasses slowly walked in. "Professor Zheng," Hu Tian said in a slightly surprised voice. No wonder she was like this. Professor Zheng was a professor in the biology department. In the past, the two of them had sat together during the staff training, so they were in contact for a period of time. However, they rarely contacted each other after that. After all, Hu Tian was a professor in the mathematics department while Professor Zheng was a professor in the biology department. Their research areas and office locations were far apart. Why did she rush over so early in the morning today? "Professor Hu, the weather is pretty good today," Professor Zheng smiled. As soon as she finished speaking, a muffled thunder suddenly sounded in the sky. The strong wind blew, causing the trees outside to sway. Immediately after, heavy rain poured down. Professor Zheng stood awkwardly on the spot. To ease the awkwardness, Hu Tian said, "Professor Zhang, why don't you sit down and have some coffee? This coffee tastes pretty good. Lin Fan brought it from Li City." "No need, no need." When Professor Zhang heard the first half, she waved her hands repeatedly. However, after hearing the second half of the sentence, she kept nodding and said, "All right, I'll have to trouble you, Professor Hu." Hu Tian could not help but look at Professor Zhang again. She did not say anything and stood up to help pour a cup of coffee. Instantly, a rich fragrance filled the entire office. Professor Zhang took a light sip and a look of enjoyment appeared on her face. She praised, "It tastes really good." Although she rarely drank coffee, these words definitely came from her heart. Then she took a mouthful after another. Soon the entire cup of coffee was finished. It was also at this moment that Professor Zhang seemed to have remembered something. She cleared her throat and said, "Lin Fan is really a genius. Not only could he solve so many mathematical problems, but he also invented the earthquake prediction device in physics and the super battery in chemistry. He even brought such delicious coffee beans." At this point, Professor Zhang changed the topic and said, "Professor Hu, I heard that you have a good relationship with Lin Fan. Tell me, does he study biomedicine, especially when it comes to biomedicine related to diabetes?" When Hu Tian heard this, she finally understood why Professor Zhang came today. She wanted her to ask Lin Fan had researched biomedicine. Hu Tian thought of the recent changes in Jiangbei University and felt a little relieved. In the past, Jiangbei University's ACE departments were biology, mathematics, chemistry, and physics. Since last year, Lin Fan had solved Zhou's conjecture, the twin prime number conjecture, Hale conjecture, and Hodge conjecture. This made the mathematics department of Jiangbei University the top in Hua Nation and even the entire world. Later on, Lin Fan invented the earthquake prediction device, which made the physics department shine all over the world. Not long ago, the super battery was developed, which also made the chemistry department quite famous. What about the former ACE biology department of Jiangbei University? In the past 2 years, they had also made some achievements. However, compared to what Lin Fan had done, it was nothing. In addition, they had been spending a lot of effort researching biomedicine, but there was no progress at all. This made the entire biology department feel awkward and helpless. After figuring out these things, a strange expression appeared on Hu Tian's face again. Lin Fan was a mathematics student. Why would Professor Zhang think of asking Lin Fan for help in biomedicine? After a while, Hu Tian said, "Lin Fan is my student. My relationship with him is indeed not bad. How about this? I'll ask him if he can come to the office." "Thank you, Professor Hu." Professor Zhang was overjoyed. If it were an ordinary student, Professor Zhang could have just gone over. However, Lin Fan was clearly not an ordinary student. Hu Tian reminded her, "It's just that I don't know if Lin Fan has studied biomedicine." It's okay, as long as I can ask him," Professor Zhang hurriedly said. Lin Fan, Ma Zhang, Song Yi, and Zheng Jinbao had just walked to the teaching building when a clap of thunder suddenly sounded outside. Then it began to rain heavily. "It must be some scumbag swearing again. Hurry up and strike him to death," Song Yi shouted. Boom! Suddenly, another loud thunder resounded through the world. It even caused the window at the side to shake, scaring Song Yi into shrinking his neck. "It seems like the heavens have found their target," Zheng Jinbao laughed. "I've always been very loyal," Song Yi said. However, when he said this, he could not help but raise his head as if he was guarding against lightning. At this moment, the phone in Lin Fan's pocket vibrated. "Hu Tian, Lin Fan, are you free now? Can you come to my office?" Lin Fan said, "I happen to be downstairs, I'm coming over now." Then Lin Fan said to Song Yi and the rest, "You guys go to the classroom first, Teacher Tianchen is looking for me." After saying that, he walked toward the office. "Teacher Tianchen." Song Yi, Ma Zhang, and Zheng Jinbao all looked at Lin Fan with envy. Song Yi said, "I finally know why the heavens are thundering." After saying that, he raised his head and shouted, "God, remember to aim better next time." Boom! A thunderclap rang out, causing everyone's eardrums to buzz. Song Yi was so frightened that he almost fell to the ground. After a while, Lin Fan arrived at his office. When he saw that there was a strange woman inside, he was slightly stunned. Hu Tian first handed him a cup of coffee and then introduced, "This is Professor Zheng Kaiyan from the biology department." Professor Zheng quickly bent over and said excitedly, "Lin Fan, hello, hello." "Hello, Professor Zheng," said Lin Fan. If there were any outsiders here, they would have thought that Lin Fan was the teacher and Zheng Kaiyan was the student. "Professor Zheng, don't you have something to ask Lin Fan?" When Lin Fan heard this, his face turned weird. What could she possibly ask him? Professor Zheng quickly took out a stack of documents from her bag and said, "Lin Fan, this is a project that Professor Wu Tian and I have been working on since the year before, research on restoring the balance of insulins in diabetes. However, after 2 years of research, Professor Wu Tian and I have encountered many problems. Here, and here, how should we resolve this? Diabetes. Insulins." She was asking Lin Fan. He did not understand at all. Suddenly, a crisp notification rang out in Lin Fan's mind. "Ding, you've triggered a mission. Watch a biology experiment and read Introduction to Insulins, Treatment of Diabetics, Pharmaceutics Technology and Microbiology and Immunity Technology. You'll receive professor-level biology experience, human islet recovery medicine, its manufacturing principle, and a complete thesis." When Lin Fan heard this, a weird look appeared on his face. He had just encountered a problem with biomedicine, and in the blink of an eye, he had triggered the corresponding mission. Professor Zheng saw that Lin Fan did not say anything for a long time and was not looking at the information. She thought that Lin Fan had not studied biomedicine and glucose. She could not help but sigh. Even though she was already mentally prepared for this, after getting this result, she still felt a little depressed. Was the biology department really going to fall? Professor Zheng opened her mouth and was about to say something. At this moment, Lin Fan said, "Bring me to the laboratory to see your experiment." Huh. Professor Zheng was slightly stunned. Lin Fan said, "What? Is it inconvenient to watch the experiment? Do you need to keep this experiment a secret?" After hearing Lin Fan speak again, Professor Zheng was overjoyed. "No, definitely not. Lin Fan, our laboratory is in front. This way, please." Lin Fan wanted to see the experiment, which proved that he had studied biomedicine and glucose. This was good news for the biology department, absolutely good news. In fact, biomedicine experiments needed to be kept confidential, and they were very strict. However, they could make an exception for Lin Fan. They even wanted to invite Lin Fan over to take a look. Lin Fan did not leave the office immediately. Instead, he said, "Teacher Tianxian, I'll go to the biology laboratory to take a look." Hu Tian nodded and said, "Professor Zheng, remember to tell Professor Wu Tian that diabetes is a problem of the century. It's not something that can be solved in a short period of time. Tell him not to be too hasty." Obviously, she was taking precautions. This was to prevent everyone from being unhappy if Lin Fan was not able to give any suggestions after watching the experiment. When Professor Zheng heard this, her smile disappeared. She also understood this principle, so she promised, "I'll be sure to relay Professor Wu Tian your message." The weather in Jiangbei was like a woman's temper. It was suddenly stormy and suddenly peaceful. When Lin Fan and Professor Zheng walked out of the office, the wind and rain had stopped. The sun was bright in the sky. The two of them crossed the wet field and went straight to training building number 2. Walking in the spacious corridor, the air was faintly filled with a pungent smell, and there were muffled sounds coming from time to time. When the door of the laboratory was pushed open, they saw 3 graduate students wearing medical protective clothing. They were doing experiments with their heads lowered. They were so careful and focused that they did not even notice Lin Fan and Professor Zheng when they walked in. At this moment, a middle-aged man wearing gold-rimmed glasses who had been focused on his computer seemed to have heard the sound and looked toward the door. When he saw Professor Zheng, his expression did not change. When he caught sight of Lin Fan, his murky eyes lit up. He put down what he was doing and ran toward Lin Fan. He stretched out his hands and bowed slightly. He said excitedly, "Hello, Lin Fan. Welcome to our biology laboratory." The middle-aged man with gold-rimmed glasses was Professor Wu Tian. Wu Tian had a deep impression of Lin Fan. It could even be said that he admired Lin Fan. A professor worshipping a student. That was right. Lin Fan solved several difficult math problems, invented the earthquake prediction device, super batteries, and so on. In Wu Tian's eyes, Lin Fan was almost omnipotent. Therefore, when the biomedicine project encountered an unsolvable problem, he immediately thought of Lin Fan. That was why Zheng Qian went to ask Hu Tian for help today. Since others were friendly to him, Lin Fan naturally would not put on airs. You must be Professor Wu Tian, right? There's no professor in front of you, Wu Tian hurriedly said. You can just call me Old Wu. The three graduate students who were focused on their experiments heard their conversation and stopped what they were doing. They looked at Lin Fan curiously. Almost everyone at Jiangbei University knew the name Lin Fan. However, Lin Fan did not accept interviews. Hence, there were very few people who knew what he looked like. Suddenly being stared at by so many people, Lin Fan felt a little uncomfortable. He coughed lightly and said, "Old Wu, forget it, I'll just call you Professor Wu." "Professor Wu, can I watch you complete an experiment?" Wu Tian did not hesitate at all and said directly, "The three of you complete the experiment once. Remember, you must do it well." The three graduate students nodded vigorously. Then, they took a deep breath and started the experiment from the beginning with a more careful and focused expression. They looked like soldiers who were about to be inspected. This kind of biological experiment was very difficult to see with the naked eye. Wu Tian pointed at the computer screen and said, "Lin Fan, please look here." Lin Fan saw. The cells that were usually invisible were densely packed on the three screens. In the beginning, the cells in the three screens were slowly wriggling in the solution. However, as time passed, the cells squirmed slower and slower. In the end, some of the cells were completely silent. At this moment, the three graduate students injected three different liquids. The cells on the first screen resumed squirming but soon stopped moving. The cells on the other screen seemed to have gone crazy. They squirmed rapidly, but they stopped at an even faster speed. The cells on the last screen did not respond at all. Immediately after, red, blue, and yellow curves appeared on the screen. The 1-hour-long experiment ended. Professor Wu Tian asked in an expectant tone, "Student Lin Fan, what do you think? How should I improve it?" In fact, not only was Wu Tian looking forward to it, but Professor Zhang and the three graduate students were also looking forward to it. Lin Fan did not reply immediately. Instead, he placed his attention on the system mission. Mission: watch a biological experiment 11, read Introduction to Insulins, Treatment of Diabetics, Pharmaceutics and Pharmaceutics Technology and Microbiology and Immunity Technology 05. You'll be rewarded with professor-level biology experience, human islet recovery medicine, its manufacturing principle, and a complete thesis. Seeing this, Lin Fan let out a satisfied look and said, "I'll go to the library first." After saying that, he turned around and left, ignoring Wu Tian, Zheng Qian, and the others who were still in a daze. After the heavy rain, the air in the library was filled with a sweet smell, making the library even more crowded than usual. If an ordinary person came to the library, they would be like a drop of water merging into the sea. They would not be discovered at all. However, Lin Fan was like a dazzling sun. As soon as he walked into the library, someone immediately came over to greet him. "You're here," a female student said with a smile. She was Lu Ling, whom Lin Fan had met several times in the library. Today, Lu Ling was wearing a long blue dress and a pair of white shoes. She was like the blue sky and white clouds, looking very fresh. Lin Fan smiled and nodded. "Yes." "What books are you looking for this time?" Lu Ling asked. "Let me help you." Lin Fan did not stand on ceremony. He said directly, "Introduction to Insulins, Treatment of Diabetics, Pharmaceutics and Pharmaceutics Technology and Microbiology and Immunity Technology." "Is that the field of biomedicine, over there?" Lu Ling nodded and walked toward the bookshelf on the left. Soon, a large row of books on biomedicine appeared in front of them. Obviously, she was very familiar with the entire library. With Lu Ling's help, they found the 5 books in a short while. Then Lu Ling led Lin Fan to the place where they usually sat. Lin Fan did not waste time chatting. He picked up a book and started flipping through it. For 2 minutes, the sound of a book being flipped could be heard. A book that was 100 pages thick had been read from the beginning to the end. Then the second book, the third book. 10 minutes later, he finally closed the last book. At this point, he had finished reading all 5 books. At this moment, a crisp notification rang out in Lin Fan's mind. Ding, mission completed. Watch a biological experiment 1-1, read Introduction to Insulins, Treatment of Diabetics, Pharmaceutics Technology and Microbiology and Immunity Technology 5-5. You'll be rewarded with professor-level biological experience, human islet recovery medicine, its manufacturing principle, and a complete thesis. Instantly, Lin Fan's mind was filled with a lot of knowledge about living things, especially about islets. Lin Fan was not too surprised by this result. He just quietly accepted this knowledge. Lu Ling saw that Lin Fan had finished reading all the books and could not help but ask, "Are you planning to study biology?" She had seen Lin Fan quickly flip through books on different subjects several times. Every time he finished flipping through, he would solve a problem not long after, or he would invent something that shocked the world. Therefore, Lu Ling no longer naively thought that Lin Fan was just flipping through books for fun. Lin Fan said, "I've already finished researching." Huh? Lu Ling blinked her big eyes, her pretty face full of confusion. Lin Fan did not continue to explain. He looked down at the questions on the table and asked, "Are there any questions you don't know?" However, Lin Fan seemed to have helped her solve some questions every time she saw him. It seemed to be true. Lu Ling's pretty face turned slightly red and she said in a soft voice, "Yes." Having just completed his mission, Lin Fan was in a pretty good mood. He picked up a pen and paper and wrote down the answers to the questions in front of him in an ingenious and detailed way.